Hello, good day and welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Mike here, Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. Hopefully you can hear me and hopefully I can answer the question of why I'm always late. It is
Poppy Dora's fault.
It's Poppy's fault, yeah. Or it's a hereditary thing, I'm not entirely sure. Let us know if you can hear me in the comments. I had some very weird things happening with the microphone before we started, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it's working as intended. Sound is good. The Rob says can see and hear you. This is possibly a good thing. My mouth is so dry. Common thing, unfortunately. Oh, no data? What the actual F? Stream says no data. This seems to be working. That's right, Poppy. Loud and clear. Okay. Hello, Pops. You alright, Babs? It appears to be working. There's the camera. Say hello. Say hello to the viewers. Or just chill. Just cool, whatever you want to do. It's your house. Let me move the mouse. Catch a mouse? No? Not interested.
You're the next open team.
She doesn't do Logitech. Do you? You do quality mouse. No offense to anyone who might have Logitech out there. Anyway, hopefully it's all working okay, so you can all hear me and see me. Excellent. Right, so that camera is definitely working. Let's go with the overhead camera. Hopefully that is working and doesn't have any additional delay or audio for that matter, although it might have actually. So we've got echo, yeah. Let me cancel the echo off of that one. There we go, that should be better. Was there echo, but now echo gone? Hopefully that should be okay.
Echo Beach.
Thumbs up in the chat if it is. Actually, I just noticed I've still got the what's it called, a little bit too bright. Let's knock that down a little bit. Oh, why can't you just go on 0, you stupid machine? There we go, that'll do. Set. That should be perfect ISO. Not very straight though. It'll do. All good. Okay now. Excellent. Thank you very much. Rick H says, I thought my drugs kicked in. That did sound quite psychedelic. Maybe I'll try that. I'll do a whole video like it and everyone will be like messing with their inputs and speakers. Like, what the is going on? Anyway, that one's working. So desktop, you can see hopefully. Yeah, that seems to be working. Awesome stuff. And the webcam. Cass gonna get upset now. Let's turn that around and up. There we go. Is that working? Looks like it's falling off the bloody thing. There we go. Oh my goodness gracious me. Is that working? Track. And yes, that should be working now. Awesome, awesome. That looks like it's working. Good stuff. Happy days. You can see the infinity effect. Me in a mirror, in a mirror, in a mirror. Just saw out the backyard. Hopefully you didn't see Kath. She'll be very upset. She'll live with it. Right, so that's all working. Excellent. Makes a bloody change. It really does. So, unfortunately, I've got no actual real topics to speak of. It's been another one of those weeks. Let's have a quick recap. So, thermal take video went out, I think, on Monday or Tuesday. That was a real last-minute thing. It'd been... Go on.
First of all, thank Nick Barnes as well.
Oh yeah, thank you already for the super chats and the PayPal donations. Much appreciated, Nick Barnes. Awesome stuff. Nick's out this weekend, or well tonight, with family and friends. Awesome stuff, but actually sent a PayPal donation. Bless your heart. Thank you, Ugly Bob, as well, for your disco, which I did see. I was still getting set up. As you can tell, I was still getting set up now. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, thank you all for... thank you all for being with us on this Saturday evening. It's been traumatic to say the least. So the thermal take CTE T500 Air was supposed to go out a little bit later, but that went out initially in front because of scheduling. The thermal take Series 300 review, which was out on, I believe, Tuesday this week, we didn't receive the case until midday Monday. So just to give you some idea of the pressure that was, due to unforeseen circumstances, yeah, that was an absolute last minute panic because they wanted me to do a build in it as well, which obviously I did in the video. So yeah, that all happened. I have actually gone back to the Series 500 temporarily because I've got some 360mm rads that I've got to do reviews. And as you said, for the Series 300, you can only put 280s in the top, 320s in the front, which I'm not always a big fan of. Let me know. Do you like 360mm rads in the front of your PC? I find it a little bit weird. I don't know why. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Anyway. So that was all kind of like crazy, working up until stupid o'clock in the night. Then the video goes out at midnight. So it's like, making sure everything's okay. It's actually been a pretty good week. So thanks to all of you, the regulars, and also if you're new to Mike's Unboxing, thank you all for helping us to create what this channel is becoming. We're currently at 93,702 subs, I think it is, Cav, is that right?
I think it's more than 2.
Cav's going to check it.
8 last time.
Just refreshing the screen.
Yeah, 8.
Yeah, 93,708 subscribers,
Wow.
which is absolutely mental. So thank you all so much. And currently for our 28-day viewing average, we are at, I think it was 883,700 views.
That's wrong.
Cav's refreshing it now because I'm probably wrong. It's not a month, it's 28 days. I should correct myself.
833.7.
833 point,
7K.
well, yeah, 833,700. That's a lot of views. One of my kind of main, well, not main goals, but one of those things which I've always been really kind of looking towards is getting that magical 1,000,000 views a month. 1,000,000 views a month would be absolutely spectacular.
Very close to
Yeah.
in 2020.
In 2020, at the peak of the thing, we got to, I think we were within about 10 to 20,000 away from it. At Christmas time, it was some amazing viewing figures, and it was really exciting. And then obviously after that thing happened, everything tailed off a little bit. So we're kind of trying to claw back where we were, which was yeah, it was a very awesome time. But over 800,000 views a month is still pretty spectacular, and I'm super proud of it. Milks Monster says, I'm curious where your viewers come from. Do you have any statistics? Yeah, majority of the viewers are, I think the top 4 or 5 countries were England, USA, India, I think New Zealand as well, and I think Germany. Those were the kind of the key ones. I think Australia was in there as well, but it does fluctuate depending on the time of year.
Delayed.
But yeah, it's all round. It's a very much a global thing. Ugly Bob, thank you for your £10 super chat. Actually, let's see if this this works anymore. Where's your mouse gone? There he is. Oh, it still says go to channel. I don't want to go to Bob's channel. What do I do? There we go. Ugly Bob says, I have to escape there. My wife says I'm hopeless at fixing appliances. Well, she's in for a shock. Excellent. Very good. Very good. Like that one. So yeah, this the channel is we're seeing some really surprising growth, to be honest with you. It's always one of those things you expect, like if you put hard work into anything, you expect it points to kind of to grow. And the channel was at a very kind of, I wouldn't say stagnant. A lot of channels, especially for the tech space, are very much in decline. There's a few of the kind of the big channels which are always kind of growing to some extent. But even channels like Linus Tech Tips, they were having entire months where they didn't gain subscribers. They were losing as many as they were gaining. So you can tell where the market was at. There's, especially with the 4000 series GeForce and the 7000 series from Radeon. Also AM5 being a little bit of a damp squib. There you go.
Love that one.
There you go, Welly Bob. Got that one in for you. It's been, I suppose, DDR5 as well, being kind of a bit and potential issues with it, expensive, etc. And then GPU prices, CPU prices, motherboard prices, now power supply prices. So it's all been very much a kind of, there was that mad cash grab in the 2019, 2020, 2021, where everything was growing crazy. You had mining booming, all that kind of stuff was going on. So it was really driving the market, just that kind of desperation. Whereas now that is all gone, all the people that were kind of buying stuff then have what they need. Very few people are doing new builds. PC flips are kind of slowed right down as well. Obviously, we've got the kind of inflationary pressures as well that we've all got. So electricity is costing more, gas is costing more, water is costing more. Basically, go shopping, it costs more more money to buy food, etc. So yeah, everything is getting more expensive. So you kind of have to prioritize what you're spending money on. And I think that's probably where we do quite well as a channel, because we're not always promoting the latest and greatest. It's not all 4090 Ti's and gigabyte master boards. It's very much a kind of a relatively wide spectrum of low end to mid-range parts. We do the odd high-end thing, but it's more of a rarity than the norm. And I think that's pretty much why we've managed to kind of weather the storm a little bit, especially when times are getting a bit harder, because people are being a bit more careful with their shopping. So like this week, the actually big thanks to Bob again for the Elsa RX 5800 graphics card. £50 for an RX 580 is just spectacular value for money and an absolute ton of fun. And I said it to Bob, and I possibly said it in the video as well, and even in the comments in the blurb. I had so much fun with that RX 580. It was just an absolute blast because it's a relatively inexpensive piece of hardware. It plays all the games at modest frame rates at 1080p, which is kind of where a lot of people are. It was just a ton of fun, it really was. And it just reminded me of how much enjoyment I get personally out of these lower end systems. And yes, I've got an RX 470 Ti, the MSI gaming trio. And yes, it's fantastic. It renders projects so fast. I can play games in 4K at stupid resolutions like 4K Ultra and still getting hundreds of frames per second. And yes, it is great and it's an absolute blast, but it's £800. So the kind of the whole context thing. If you've got money, if someone's saying to you like, we're going to treat you, maybe you're a business owner and they say, right, you need a new PC, here's X amount of money, spec out the PC you want. Or maybe you've just passed, you've just graduated high school or whatever, you've passed your exams, done your GCSEs, done your A-levels, and your family have climbed the club together and they're going to get you a big present for doing so well. So that's the kind of thing where then those higher end graphics cards now, that is their kind of target market, the gift market, or the kind of the business expense market. I think realistically for a lot of people,
that much though, to be silly.
Some people do, like they give cars, don't they?
Who?
Well, some parents give cars to their kids when they've passed their exams and stuff. It's not unheard of, especially in America.
America might be, not here.
Yeah. Got to think, it's a global thing, isn't it? We're speaking to not just the UK, America, India. We're talking to basically anyone who's got access to the internet, I was going to say.
You mean a flattle?
Yes. Yeah, everybody in the dome watches. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's why we've managed to weather the storm pretty well. I wouldn't say we do anything which is unique. Obviously, the only thing unique is the fact that I'm kind of sat here hosting it. But other than that, it's kind of just an accumulation of information and data, and I present it in the way that I feel I would like to watch personally. So yeah, if other people like it, awesome. If they don't, then there's an absolute shit ton of other channels out there which you can enjoy. And also I think the fact that we do a lot of the how-to videos, like how to reset this, how to do that, how to install your graphics card, how to whatever. Yeah, all kinds of things. And it's like YouTube, I was speaking to somebody this week and we were saying like, ultimately in the modern world now, if there's anything that goes wrong, whether it's your central heating, whether it's your car, your motorcycle, your computer, your mouse, pretty much the first thing you do is you go to your computer, you open up your browser of choice, you type in how do I, and the rest follows. And normally there's a bunch of videos, and hopefully one of those videos will be one of ours. You never know. But I think that's why we've done it, because we're doing very, very wide gamut of things, which is why we haven't had that spectacular fast growth. It's just been that kind of steady climb, because we're not, if you have a niche channel, a really dedicated niche channel, you'll get a ton of views and you'll get pretty quick growth. But if for some reason that niche goes badly wrong, or people lose interest, that's your channel gone basically. So that's where we're at.
Edward White.
Edward.
Right near the bottom. Well,
Edward White, let's have a question. Edward White, can I mix 2 times 16 GB and 2 times 8 gig DDR4? Both have the same memory latency timings together. Edward White, you are risking having a hairstyle like mine.
Edward says, hi, first time asking and long time follower.
Thank you, Edward. Much appreciated. Mixing RAM is very much like going to the pub and having mixed drinks. Some people can go out, they can mix their drinks and they're absolutely fine. For some people, they'll mix their drinks and they will spew their entire contents outwards and feel very bad. It could work. I would err on the side of caution and say that it probably won't. For certain things like laptops, it's a little bit different. Those kind of, you can mix and match a little bit, especially if it's like soldered to the board, because basically what other choice have you got? Even these days, if you buy like 2 sets of identical Corsair RAM, unless they're from the same batch number, it's rare that the timings are close enough for it to be stable. And I think a lot of people, especially some of you that have been with the channel long enough, you've probably seen it. We've had it in the Discord. People have gone out, they've bought 16 gigs when they bought their PC of Corsair, Platinum, Dominator, whatever. Then they've tried to do the same thing again a year later and it's basically ended in tears. It's never a good idea. I would always advise against it, but potentially it can work. So I think that is all I can say on that matter, unfortunately. It's €10 super chat there from our man Stuart Cleary. Somebody stole my new Microsoft Office last week and they are going to pay. You have my word. I thought that was genuine for a minute until I got to the end of it. Well done.
And also just above there, Pigstry.
Pigstry, hello. Hi, Pigstry. Good evening. Is a Fractal Ion Plus 2 Platinum 660 watt power supply powerful enough for later upgrades such as RTX 2080 Ti? I'm currently on RTX 2070. It's a good power supply, and being a Platinum, it's going to have a little bit more of a kind of a bit more flexibility, especially for the power excursions. Realistically, if you're on RTX 2070, upgrading to a 2080 Ti is probably not the ideal way to go anyway. You're probably better off going for something a little bit newer, which potentially is going to require less power, especially if you go for the RTX 40 series. I would say probably, I'm pretty sure 4060 Ti is faster than a 2080 Ti. I'm pretty sure, and uses about half the power. So possibly I wouldn't be quite as kind of fixated on the 20 series. They are getting a bit older now, and most of the ones that are out on the market have been absolutely hammered over the years, especially if they've been mined on. So yeah, I don't know. I think your power supply will probably be okay. It's a decent power supply. I'll be honest with you, the 2080 Ti, I'm not entirely sure what the TDP is of that. I'm guessing it's going to be about 325, 350. I'm not entirely sure.
The Bell says I have that PSU and it was not enough for a Ryzen 5950X.
Calf. Did you hear that noise?
Yeah.
That was Maisie, I think. Daisy, sorry. Sorry about that. We've got a slightly sick cat at the moment. So, Calf's just having a look, make sure she's okay. Yeah, Patrick's advice there. Not entirely sure. It's a good power supply. I wouldn't necessarily need replacing, but it's definitely something that you kind of have in the back of your mind. Potentially, depending where you are, if you can get a decent trade-in value, if you can sell it on the used market and replace it, maybe try that. I don't know. Skystalker says, even matched 4 sticks of RAM can be an issue, especially DDR5. I would agree totally. I actually, friend of the channel, Kieran, I actually bought some G-Skill RAM, which I've got up here. And you'll notice I've put both of them in deliberate piles because that set works together, that set works together. And I had to work out the serial numbers because even though these are all Trident Z Neo, and they were bought basically at the same time as far as I know, but if you don't get them in the right channels, it won't work as 4 sticks for love nor money. So you have to make sure that you know that is one channel, that is the other channel, and don't ever cross them apart. So that is kind of what we're saying. 4 sticks of RAM, even though these are literally identical, and the serial numbers are literally kind of hundreds apart rather than thousands or a completely different batch set. So that is something to definitely bear in mind. Where do we get to? Thank you for the super chat, whoever that was. Adam N. Smooth the cat. Kath did, I think. Was she right?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with her.
I just heard a weird noise. Maybe she kind of...
because she was straight in when I went in there.
Right, okay. I do worry about the animals. I don't know why. I'm just a soft git. I should man up. Just ignore them, but I can't help it. Jason Woods question, which is better, 3060 Ti or 4060 Ti? Yes. That depends on many, many variables. It's not a case of which is better, really. And also it depends on if you're looking at buying brand new or used. Now, if you're buying a 3060 Ti used, arguably that is going to be better than a 4060 Ti new in terms of frames per pound or frames per dollar. The 4060 Ti is one of those daft cards which has got a really bad rap. But in terms of what it competes against from the 20 series, it's actually pretty good. But it's got so many things going against it, like the 128-bit bus, only 8 gigs of RAM. So it's kind of stuck in the past, but it's got a lot of the future with it as well. So you've got like the, the 4th gen Tensor cores, 3rd gen RTX cores. You've also got a much, much higher clock speed on the GPU, which to some extent alleviates the bandwidth issue, because if the CPU is able to compute, or the GPU can compute quicker, it doesn't need such a wide bus to do it. It's like turning the tap on a lot faster. I don't know, it's probably not a very good analogy. It's a very difficult question to answer. I've got a 3060 Ti in the rig behind me. I've got to be honest, I love that card. Even though I paid top dollar for it when it first came out, I think it was £369 plus £8 or £9 postage or something. So it was like £383 or something from scan.co.uk, because they are the official distributor of Founders Edition cards in the UK. So it's like nearly 400 quid, which is a lot of money for what it is, to be fair. So when they've been on the market recently for in and around the £300 mark for like the Ventus from MSI, £300 is a cracking price for a 3060 Ti. The brand new 4060, I think, is still about 360, I want to say, 370 or £400, or if you want to go for the 16 gig version, let's not even go there.
James Brock's popped in and done a like, but he's...
Thanks, Mr. Brock.
Doing other things.
So yeah, it's a really hard one to answer that question. For some instances it's going to be better, for some things it's going to be worse. If you are someone who is playing something like, let's say Fortnite, competitively, the 4060 Ti is better than the 3060 Ti. It's built for that game engine. It really is, and it does a fantastic job. And also, if you're playing competitively, you're not going to have all the eye candy turned on, so the bus width isn't going to be an issue. The RAM isn't going to be an issue, because you're reducing textures, because you don't want all that visual eye candy. You just want those really fast frame rates, and that it really excels at. So yeah, it's I hate saying so. I say it so many times, but it is what it is. Hello, Flame Churchill. How are you?
Oh, he's not staying.
He's got most of his fur back now, as you can tell by the decorations. Words are escaping me. Kath, sorry, could you possibly get me a raspberry drink, please? Would that be okay? There's Popsy Dora. Let's get out of the way. Oh, it's not going to focus on her. If it does, it'd be just my luck. As soon as it focuses on her, I'll just focus on her butt.
It focused on her tail.
Mick Wood says, I love my 3060 Ti. I'm with you, Mick.
How do I go?
I'm with you there. Kieran says, Mike's Unboxing at Kath Churchill. I've been impressed with the Acer A770 16 gig so far. Truthfully, no word of a lie. In my video editing rig over there at the moment, I'm currently running the Intel, well not Intel, it's the ASRock A770 8 gig. And I really like it. It does a very good job. My monitor is a 4K monitor. There's another story about that. Don't get me started on that. My monitor is 4K. I wanted to go to 4K because for video editing, I video edit in 4K, so it makes sense. Also for doing screen captures, etc. The whole OBS thing, not wanting to do a resolution bigger than the monitor. It's a pain in the ass. Editing in 4K, using a 4K monitor has literally been a game changer and made editing much easier. But yeah, it's a great card. And when the RTX 4070 Ti review comes out, very shortly, because I just finished doing the video on Friday night, I think it was. It's great, but it's a lot of money, and I get virtually not the same. I get a similar experience from the A770 with only 8 gigs of RAM on it for £250 I paid, other than paying £800 for a 4070 Ti. So it's a really bizarre market. Generally, when you're buying computer stuff, you're expecting that. I said this to Kath actually. We were walking back from the shops the other evening. I was saying it's just really confusing at the moment. I don't like doing these reviews.
She wasn't sleepwalking.
Yeah, she wasn't sleepwalking either. And we were having this conversation that years ago, you'd have your kind of obvious market segments and price points. So you'd have your entry-level graphics card at like £100. You'd have your mid-range card at maybe 150 or so, and then you'd have your top dollar card at maybe 200 to 250. And there was obvious segments in the market: entry-level, mid-range, top end. Whereas now, not only do we have the previous generations which weren't entirely clear where they were, we've now got the modern generations which have blurred it even more and kind of almost squeezed out the budget market and most of the mid-range market entirely, and that is kind of now left to previous generation cards almost in its entirety, and maybe the odd Intel card. So it's a really bizarre market, and it seems that we've gone from being like this amount of range to having this amount of range and all these crazy prices in between, but the bottom end is still shifted up a little bit as well. So it's really hard. I hate doing graphics card reviews. I really do, which is why that RX 580 for 50 quid was just like, this is freaking awesome. Because there's nobody in their right mind who's going to buy an RX 580 for 50 quid that is going to be like, Mike, I bought this card and it sucks ass. I'm really upset with it. It's like, dude or dudette, seriously, it's 50 quid and it plays 1080p games. Are you tripping? Whereas, conversely, RTX 4070 Ti video, somebody watches that, likes what I've said about it, likes the card, likes the look, the quietness, the speed, all that kind of stuff. They punch out 800 quid on a card and then they're like, actually this isn't that good, or it doesn't give me that much more than my previous £600 card. Then I do feel they've got a justifiable reason to be a bit pissed. But at the bottom end of the market, yeah, 50 quid for a graphics card is awesome. You can buy those all day long and you'll have no problems with them. So hopefully, I don't know, I went completely off topic there. Aletta's with us. Actually, let's say hello to all you lovely people in the chat, because I haven't acknowledged a lot of you and I feel like somewhat of a bastard. I'm not that kind of person.
Can I just interrupt with a question?
Go on then.
Restart. William Bodie, people think I did wrong buying the Zotac 3060 12 gig. It was cheap and gives what I need. Am I wrong?
No, William Bodie, you're definitely not. And actually, I'm still at the point now, looking around on the market at what is available, I am still considering RTX 3060 12 gig. For me personally, I think that would be a great card. The extra gigabytes of RAM in there for video editing, I think it would do a really good job. And literally, what else is on the market at that sort of price point? If it does what you need it to, and you're happy with it, and it hasn't cost you a kidney, what's not to like? I can't imagine that anybody in our community, as small as it is, that would kind of be pissing on your chips, for want of a better expression, to say that you've bought or you've made a mistake. If you bought like a 6500 XT at inflated prices like myself and Bob did, then yes, you would have every right to say that was a bit of a mistake. But yeah, I think the 3060 12 gig is a justifiable graphics card. Certainly, it's not ideal, but it's certainly a lot better than some of the options on the market. And you think, it's got 12 gigs of RAM, the same as the 4070 Ti. Just put that into perspective. It's a 60 class card with a 70 Ti class memory buffer. The world is insane. That should answer your question. So Ugly Bob's with us. How you doing, Ugly Bob? We've already said that. O'Reilly's with us as well. Live long and prosper, everybody. Nice one. Jason Woods with us. How you doing, Jason? Stuart Cleary. He's enjoying a nice cold vodka and Tropicana orange juice. I used to love Tropicana orange juice, especially the smooth one. Not the one with bits in. I think that's just like drinking... I'm not going to say. Mark Berry's with us. Says, hi, Mubsters. How you doing, Mark Berry? Bob said Jason Woods. Matthew Day. Dinner tonight. This is important. This Matthew Day's dinner is important because he, like myself and Kath, he is an avid yellow sticker hunter.
He's a longer standing sticker hunter than us.
Yeah,
although I did do it years ago.
Dinner tonight will be microwave spaghetti bolognese yellow sticky special. I hope you're referring to the sticker, not the consistency. If it's yellow and sticky, I don't think it's spag bol. I think that's something very different.
Right, Jamie Hartley. Hi Mike, I'm just wondering how much I can undervolt my Ryzen 5800X stock. It's 1.46. I've taken it down to 1.25. It's still a bit warm using 240 AIO. Can I take it further without comping performance?
That is a tricky one. Because of the...
I'll say his name, Jamie Hartley.
Jamie Hartley. Thank you for watching. It's a really difficult one to say because all silicon behaves differently and all motherboards handle voltage differently. So if you've got an ASUS board, potentially it's going to try and overvolt things anyway. If you've got maybe some gigabyte boards, tend to be a little bit more conservative on the power. So trying to find that kind of sweet spot of where your temperatures are. Did you say it was a 5800X 3D? I didn't...
5700X. Sorry, 5800X.
Just the 5800X, okay. Yeah, the 5800X, I'm trying to see where it is now. There we go, just to refresh my memory. I'll put the question on the screen so as a timestamp if those of you are watching. So I think if you've got it down to 1.25, that is kind of really going to be, I would call the safe limit. 5800X, it's probably, I would say, well, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing rendering tasks, then it's probably going to hit like 80 degrees, realistically. Maybe more. It depends what your consideration of being a bit warm is. A 240 AIO, most 240 AIOs don't really do much better than a decent tower cooler. So you're never going to get some spectacular results with it. I found that with my 5800X, even with a 360 rad, if I was running things like Cinebench, it would still just rocket up. And I think mine used to hit about 83 to 85. I'm not sure. Depends. I'm not sure what you're getting. Letta says, hi Letta. She says she has a Ryzen 5900X set to 1.325 and it's working fine. What did he say it was? Yeah, if you've got yours down to 1.25, that's actually pretty good, from what I can recall. I wouldn't really feel that confident taking it down much lower than that to risk stability. Possibly even potentially look at your cooler setup and see what is going on there. Make sure your pump speed is constantly between about 80 to 100%. sort of starting off at 80% and ramping up to 100 when it gets to around about 70 degrees. That should improve things a little bit if you haven't already. Potentially as well, make sure your paste application is good. Check your idle temperature as well. If it idles high, you might be just your cooler's just not quite seated correctly. Definitely things to be taking a look at. Right, let's go back to say hellos. And if Kath finds a question, let me know. But don't for the next minute or two will I get my head around who I haven't said hello to. So William Bodie, how you doing? Who else we got with us? Mick Woods, who says Skystalker. Hello, Big World. I've arrived. The show may begin. Bless your heart. Let's hear it for Skystalker. Hit that. If you can see on the chat button, the heart icon, smash the heart icon. Skystalker, bless his heart. He's packed up his bags from his old job this week and on to pastures new. So yeah, let's see some heart action in the chat.
Action on my phone.
Have you not got the live? Oh, you've not got it on there?
No.
That's because you haven't updated it, I expect.
Oh, probably.
You got it on your desktop.
I did it on there, but that's your name.
Ah, okay.
So you've done it.
I've loved myself, only in the privacy of the shower. Moving on. So, why did the Terminator cross the road? Says Jason Woods. To terminate the chicken. The dipstick. That's good. Oh dear. So Mick Woods, we said hello to Mark Barry, Stuart Cleary, Paul Bakewell. Hi Paul Bakewell, how you doing? Good old Paul Bakewell. He comments on all the videos, even if he's not interested in them at all, or maybe not. I do like that. It's all good for the channel. So just clicking on, thanks, great video, like it, whatever, excellent stuff. If you can share the videos as well, that is awesome. That really helps. And if it is actually a genuinely helpful video, share it somewhere like on a forum or another Discord or something. Facebook is always a good one as well. Yeah, Fakebook. Stick it on Fakebook if you've still got a Fakebook account, or share it on X if you're on that thing, whatever that is. Patrick LaBelle says hello chat. I hope you all had a great week. Busy week, very busy week. It seems that the weeks are getting shorter, and my time span is I can't think what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean. Time's getting shorter. I think there is a super chat come in then. I just saw something pop up on the screen. And Kath stood up, so that means either she needs a pee or there's a super chat. So, thank you there, Ugly Bob, £10. My wife told me she'd slept with 7 people before we met. I wouldn't mind, but I was only 20 minutes late. Ba-boom. I was going to make a crude comment then, but I won't for the sake of the channel. Jason Woods, we said hello to Milch Monster. How you doing, Milch Monster? Good to see you in the chat. Rick H as well. Colin Hilton says, evening all. Hello, Colin. How are you doing tonight, sir? Colin Hilton had a honourable mention this week from our friend, God, I forgot his name. Kerry Holzman. Kerry is building a new PC for streaming and was using his Magewell video card, which is a HDMI video capture card, which Colin kindly donated to Kerry's channel. So he gave him a shout out all these years later. So still some love there, I feel. Who else we got? I think I've said Terry Trickett. How you doing, Terry? Pete Unwin as well. How you doing, Pete? Kieran's with us, we said, with his new Intel graphics card. Kieran, what are the idle wattages on your card? I'm interested to know. And also what resolution and refresh are you running at? Because that will make a difference. I've actually got to the point now, I'm not too sure what I've done, but the Intel cards, you remember when they came out, they had a real big problem with the idle. Basically, idle wattage was through the roof, so you'd be using like just 20 to 50 watts, literally just with your desktop open. And if you had a relatively high refresh rate monitor, 1440p, like over 120 hertz, it would just literally be as if you've got like all of the kitchen lights on type thing. It's ridiculous how much fuel it would burn through. But I've actually got it down to, this week I noticed, down to about 7 or 8 watts. It's like 7 to 11 watts when there's nothing going on at all, just maybe watching a YouTube video or something. So new Intel drivers out this week as well, which I don't know whether that's had an effect. I think the fact that my monitor is now limited to 60 Hertz anyway, potentially that is making a difference, but certainly it's edging in the right direction. So I was at the point where the A770, I was thinking, do I change it? Do I not? I quite like what it does, but the power consumption is concerning. But it's now come down to a very sensible level, so I'm quite happy with that. Lucky Man's with us. It says, polish needed, looks a bit dull. Thank you. Skystalker says, okay. Kath says, hi Uggs, and thanks for the super chat. Paul Bakewell would be proud. Not Paul Bakewell, Paul Hollywood. Paul Hollywood? Is it Paul Hollywood?
Yeah. Well, Ugly Bob's double.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ugly Bob's stunt double. Mark Berry, sorry, just catching it now. I think that is pretty much everyone done. Jay Rich, how you doing, Jay Rich? Hi, Mike and Kath. And actually, this is something which people do say quite often, especially if you go to some of our older videos and they type in, they're like, obviously they've watched the video because it's relatively helpful for whatever they're doing. And then they look through the comments. I'm guessing most people do that, don't they? You watch a video, then you look through the comments to see what other people are commenting, just to get like a feel for what's going on. And I hated it when I'd watch some other channel. I'm not going to name any specific ones because there's literally thousands. But you go through, you'd see a video and they'd go through all the stuff, and at the end they'd be like, oh, hit the subscribe button and smash the like button and follow us on Patreon and don't forget the chimes and all that sort of nonsense. Yeah. But then you'd see like an entire couple of pages of comments and literally not a single response from the actual video creator. And that really upsets me. I hated seeing it and I refused to do it. So people were actually quite often are quite stunned that me and Kath spend a lot of time and effort actually going through comments and trying to answer as many as possible. Replies we possibly miss because they get buried. But
they come through on email.
Yeah, the initial comment comes up in the app. It's easy for us to see, and mostly it's easy for us to acknowledge it and reply to it.
To a reply,
yeah,
make a new comment.
Yeah, make a new. If we don't reply to a reply, make a new comment. That will do it. But yeah, we try and answer daily. Essentially, when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do, open up the app on my phone, while still in bed, look at the comments, answer a few which are quite easy, because obviously it's on a phone, it's not always the easiest thing to do, or if there's like a generic reply like thanks for watching or hope it helped you or whatever, that's fine. If it needs a little bit more than that, then I'll wait till I get in front of the PC, I'll fire up the comments section and literally spend probably about half an hour to an hour every morning, stroke afternoon, going through the questions, because I think that everybody deserves that. If you've taken the time to watch a video, potentially click on like, maybe even subscribed, and leave a comment, and you've actually asked a kind of a bona fide question about what the video is about, I personally think you deserve an answer. It may not be necessarily the answer you want, it might not even be the right answer, but I do feel that you at least should be acknowledged that you've done it. So that is what we try and do. And I think that's another reason why we have grown the way we have. Because there's loads of other channels out there which are basically do what we do. But I think we do go the extra mile. I am blowing my own trumpet here a bit, but what the hell? I think we should. Me and Kath put a lot of work into it. Doing the comments, like the video stuff, we probably don't spend as much time on polishing and doing things that we should do. Maybe I should spend more time with graphs and charts and lighting and angles and focus and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, I think it comes down to the end experience. Do we reply to comments? Do we help over and above what other channels do? Well, I think we do, and we will continue to do that for as long as we physically can.
Right. Well, you're on the subject of that. Anyone know what the secondary temp reading is on the Sapphire Nitro 6800 XT? Repaste and repad done, but still at 110C. according to HW Monitor. It's not VRAM, as that sits at 70C and core around 82C.
Yeah, the secondary reading is normally the hotspot temperature. So I'm not sure if the 5000 series had it, but the 6000 definitely did. So rather than having just a couple of sensors, like 5 or 6 sensors actually on the die, I'm pretty sure the 6000 series had a whole bunch of them. And what it would do is it would monitor all of them, but it would only give you the readout of the hotspot, or basically the hottest of those temperatures. Because obviously if that's the hottest, the others are going to be cooler. So that is the one to look out for. So the secondary one is normally a hotspot. So you have your GPU, you have your GPU hotspot, and you also have your VRAM. Those are the normal 3 which get reported in most software. There have been a lot of problems with hotspot temperatures getting to pretty high temperatures. It's not always catastrophic, and I think AMD said there was a thermal limit of something like 105C. So you're kind of getting towards there. So maybe there's not adequate mounting pressure on the cooler or something. Don't know. Not sure. I'd have to have a closer look at that, but it's likely that is going to be the hotspot temperature that it's recording, or reporting rather. David Underhill's with us. How you doing, David Underhill? Bless you for joining us. And Steve Larkin as well. How you doing, Steve? With Bodie. Lord Moss Gaming. Hi, Mike. Hope you're both good and well. Yeah, good and knackered. Right, I am really shattered. It is beyond belief. I think it's normally in this time of year, it is what we call here in the United Kingdom summer. Normally, that would involve temperatures in excess of 18 to 19 degrees Celsius or above, and generally the big fiery thing in the sky would be burning away and making me into Indian Mike, rather than at the moment I'm more like Icelandic Mike. Very pale. It's not usual. Last month and this month have been ridiculously cold, and we've actually discussed many times, should we light the fire? And in certain places in the UK, especially more northern cities, in pubs and stuff, they're still lighting the open fires and putting logs on the fire. In August. What the actual F? It's ridiculous. But yeah.
We did do that the year George left school, because he was doing his bus training, and the woman who was training him on buses said she'd actually put her heating on. So I could admit we had been putting ours on. Yeah. But that was like years ago. Jason Woods. I know drink driving is against the law, but is drinking and building a PC against the law?
Not really. I think it's absolutely fine. You should get away with it. Anyway, I think I've said loads enough to remember. Oh, Glenn's with us as well. How you doing, Glenn? Did the thing turn up, Glenn? It probably hasn't yet. I haven't checked the
probably Monday.
The thing, the postage thing. Ugly Bob says loves me 3060 Ti FE. I think of all of the recent cards that are in the kind of what I would consider the upper tier price-wise, I know 3060 Ti isn't expensive in terms of what is available, but if you think back 10 years, if you're spending sort of £350, £400 on a graphics card, you'd be buying the top of the line card. And I think the 3060 Ti was one of those ones where it was reasonably justified in price, I think.
So going back to that draw thing, do you know the true power draw of the 6000 series? Apparently they report it differently from most other GPU Radeons included. 6800 XT claims 235 to 250. Scott?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah. Well, normally, because what you get is most graphics cards, I've noticed this a lot, like processors, most graphics cards, when they're listed and you get your promo information or you look on the box or whatever it is, they've got what is known as a TDP, or for graphics cards you get a TGP, or total graphics power, which is kind of more of a guideline. That is kind of what it potentially will draw in kind of normal specs, so to speak. But for most of us, you know, if you've got, like for me, I've got the 7700X in there, which is officially, I think it's a 95 watt or 105 watt part. But if I run Cinebench, it will quite easily take 140 watts. So the kind of TDP of cards, and also for graphics cards, really is kind of pinch of salt territory, because of the way that modern CPUs and GPUs work. So the way they work now is they've got thermal sensors in, they've got current sensors and wattage sensors and all these kinds of other things. So depending on the environment they're in, if they have enough power and it's cool enough, they'll just keep on boosting, and they get to a point where for every watt you put in, you get a more and more diminished return. So between sort of 200 and 250 watts, you get a decent jump, but between 250 and 350, you might even only get like 5% to 10% improvement for that massive extra wattage. But because it can potentially do it, it will try and push for it. So that is why your graphics card is probably trying to draw more than it actually should. I would probably suggest an undervolt. Most Radeon graphics cards, and processors for that matter, actually do run really well with the undervolt. But certainly I think yours is probably reporting a little bit on the high side. I would definitely check the thermal paste. If you've repasted it, or it's been repasted with a very thin paste, that can often have a detrimental effect because of the fact that you've got the sponge pads around the outside edge for your memory. And because of the tension on it, if you haven't got a thick or kind of a more gloopy paste on this GPU die, there can sometimes be uneven pressure, which could be giving you your results. Skystalker says, lol, you have open fires in pubs? Is that a thing? Yeah, there's quite a few pubs. Our local pub in the little village down the road, it's called the Horseshoe. It's literally been like one of the central points of the village for many, centuries, I think. But yeah, in the corner they've got an open fire, chuck logs on, job's good on. It's very common actually in the UK, especially in the more rural areas, to have a traditional wood burning fire or stove or something. Possibly not so much in the centre, because there's all kinds of things. We're lucky because we're in South Gloucestershire. We're just on the edge of being in Bristol, so even though our address, technically we are Bristolian, and we have a Bristol postcode, we are officially in South Gloucestershire, which used to be Avon. So there used to be Avon County years ago. So Bristol was in Avon, but Avon became South Gloucestershire as other areas all got amalgamated. But yeah, we are just on the outskirts, so we don't have a smokeless or like an open fire, or what's the thing? There's some sort of smoke ban. It's like a pollution thing. So if you've got a wood burner in Bristol, you're supposed to have this special fuel, smokeless fuel, whereas we can just chuck on printer cartridges. It's all good. They burn funny colours. Who'd have thought? Mick Woods says, that's why this channel is so good. Well done. Bless you. Thank you very much. We try. Freedom House 1984 says, my 3080 is the same. I only used one 6080, 6800 XT, and it would draw around 300 according to a hardware bot. Sorry about that, Glenn. Never mind. Skystalker says, my A770 burns a reported max of 190 to 200 watts. Not that great, really, for an arguably lower end mid-range card. Yeah, it's a weird one. The power efficiencies aren't quite there for the Intel setup, but it's a weird... The Intel graphics cards are very weird in that they perform like good or okay in most games, but in other tasks where you don't expect it to do well, such as ray tracing performance, is brilliant, is absolutely insanely good. And video editing performance in Adobe Premiere is amazing. The scrubbing on the timeline, earlier on I was editing a video, I had 3 4K layers on the timeline, and I'm just like scrubbing through it left and right. It's like la 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 la, barely breaking a sweat, running like an absolute champ. Rendering isn't as fast as the NVIDIA cards, but the experience of actually using it, I think personally for me, having more fluidity actually in the timeline doing the edits is more convenient than actually having a much faster render or output. Superdix 3sem says, is it normal for my RX 570's utilization to spike in the adrenaline software in the performance tab? It would go from 0 to 80 randomly on idle. This only happens in AMD software. No, it shouldn't really. Unless there's a game running in the background or something like YouTube, possibly. It shouldn't really spike, I don't think. Where else do we get to? Dutch Jan's with us. How you doing, Dutch Jan? Aletta says, during gaming, my 6900 XT gets close to 300 watts. Yeah, my 6900 XT... Was it 1600 or 1650? I can't even remember now. It's not been that long. Yeah, I'm sure I used to watch the wattage going up and it's like 200 and something plus, and it's like, oh my giddy aunt, that's not good. But it's bizarre because, again, doing the RTX 4070 Ti review, I was watching it and it's supposed to be around about sort of 250. Some games it is, but then quite often I would see it like heading up to 285. I'm thinking, this is only 300 watts, so all that power efficiency, kind of, where is it? Michael Craig, how you doing? Says my 8 gig 5500 XT peaks at 130 watts. 119 is the highest I've seen it go. Literally on a power diet. It's great though, isn't it? The RX 6600, which is currently sat there, that's great. I'm sure that was like 100 watts or something it was using, which is brilliant. Which is essentially what I think the RX 5700 non-XT would run. It was great. Kenny D's asked a question. Which would be the better value upgrade from a Ryzen 5 3600 for gaming at 1440p, streaming and light productivity work? The Ryzen 5 5600 or the Ryzen 7 5700X? I have a RTX 3070. That's a tough call. I don't think the 5600 is going to be enough of an uplift over the 3600. It would be a reasonable jump, and it's actually a pretty decent price. I think you can get the Ryzen 5 5600 at the moment for about £150. I could be wrong there. I'm sure the last time I looked it was about 150, maybe slightly less now. It depends how much the Ryzen 7 5700X is. I would probably be tempted to edge more towards the 5700X. Maybe even the 5800. The 5800X is a cracking processor. It needs a little bit of extra cooling and it needs a bit of tweaking to get it to run nice and cool and quiet. But the 5800 has got a lot of grunt and is basically within spitting distance of the Ryzen 9 3900X. I've had both of them, and the 3900X scores better in Cinebench by a little bit, but in terms of actually when you're using it, there's not really a great deal between the two, and for gaming, certainly the 5800X has the edge over the 3900X. Depends what sort of money you can get it for. I'm pretty sure, who was it? Somebody on our Discord this week was selling a Ryzen 9 3900X for £150. So it depends what sort of money you want to spend. I would potentially, it's a tricky one. I would possibly look at CEX or Facebook Marketplace and look for a used CPU and see what it's about. If you can get a 3900X, I think you'll notice a big difference. I certainly did between the 3600 and the 3900. It was a huge jump, especially in productivity tasks, like going into Premiere or something was like, wow, much slicker. I don't think I've answered your question, Kenny, but hopefully I've given you other things to think about or consider. But yeah, 5700X is still a cracking processor. The 5600X is, or the 5600 non-X is really good because it's really efficient at what it does. But I don't think really it's going to be enough of a jump over the 3600.
You've got a fair few questions going on.
Okay, Skystalker says we have bans on wood fires in more urbanish parts of Canada. Yeah, we kind of have, really. Especially sort of city centre stuff. David Undreal says all 3 pubs in my home have, in my town have massive fireplaces. You can't beat a real fire, can you? The nice feeling, the warmth that it radiates is awesome. Just don't breathe it in. Milks Monster says no need for a 5700X while only gaming. The thing is, almost nobody is just gaming these days, are they? It's not like... I understand the argument and the concept of gaming versus multitasking versus streaming and etc. There's definitely those kind of segments between them. But these days, we're lazy bastards, really, aren't we? Like years ago, if you had an old MS-DOS PC or something, you'd literally kind of almost shut down Windows to reboot into DOS to play your game so that you'd minimize all background tasks running. Whereas now, if you're... I don't know, me personally, if I'm going to play a game on my computer, generally I've left Outlook open. That's pretty much a given. My previous windows are open in Chrome. Pretty much that's a given. Discord is most likely going to be open as well. There's going to be numerous background other things going on. Your antivirus, Spotify, all those kinds of things are going to be running in the background. So it's not like these days that we are just only gaming. It's kind of, gaming is your priority at times, but you still got all this other shit going on in the background, which if you do have a few extra cores spare, especially in some more modern games where they are starting to use a few more cores. It used to be like you didn't need more than 4 cores for gaming, whereas now kind of 6 cores is kind of getting more normal. So having an 8-core CPU multi-threaded, you've still got those other 2 cores so that Windows can go, oh, actually, I've got to do a Windows update in the background, or there's a scan to be done, or Outlook is doing a send and receive, or those kind of things. So I totally understand what you're saying, Milks Monster, and I'm not picking on you at all. I'm just saying that I don't think that these days there is that specific gaming only kind of, I don't know, that segregation. I don't think gaming only is only gaming in terms of how it used to be. Because we have all those background tasks. You've got your Epic store, you've got your Steam store, you've got your Ubisoft running, all kinds of other stuff as well. So all those things are taking up processing path. So if you want a smoother gaming experience, and you don't want the lag, you don't want the stutter, having more cores to allow Windows to distribute the load across them makes things a little bit better. And I can remember quite clearly playing games years ago on the 4-core systems, and you could tell when like Outlook was doing a send or receive or something was happening in the background. You could feel that kind of lag kicking in a little bit. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I kind of disagree slightly.
Michael Craig wants to know quickly, well not quickly, but serious question, might have been answered before, but I don't remember. What do you use to shave your head? I always knew it was stubbly head, need it sorted.
I use a skull shaver. That is what I've used for probably 2 years now. Maybe more.
Maybe on 3. Because I think you had a week off on holiday, didn't you? And you shaved it.
My first skull shaver was really good. The second one, I think, was marginally better. Probably not worth the extra money. But the biggest improvement I did, normally, well, you guys know me, I'm a skin-tight bastard. I really am. I don't like spending money. But actually investing a little bit of money and buying was it the Baron blades or the Forte?
I think it's Baron.
There's 3 different types of blades that you can get for the skull shaver. There's the Forte, I think, comes with it. There's another one, and the Baron. I think the Baron is the best one. The most expensive, but it's for slightly more sensitive skin. The amount of times that previously with the skull shaver, I've been using the wrong blades for my skin type. Now you think, obviously, when you're shaving your head, some of you watching probably know this, you're shaving your head, you just buy a shaver, it comes with the heads that are on it, you use it. If it works for you, great. If it gives you razor rash, most times you either send it back or you buy another one. It goes into the drawer, you never use it again. But the thing is with skull shaver, it's very cool that you can actually choose the blades you want. You can have either the 3 blade, the 4-blade or the 6-blade version. They all just clip on. So some people have got like super sensitive
We've done
skin.
videos on 'em.
Yeah, we have done videos on it. So if you want to check it out, you can do. But if you've got super sensitive skin, the 6-blade Baron is awesome because it's like butter over your head. It really is. And I used to suffer quite a lot. There's been a few times where I've got to the point on a Saturday evening, or even just in the morning doing videos, and I've shaved my head, I've been sat there answering questions, doing the shave, and then I've gone to do a video and it's like, oh God, what's that? And it's like, oh, big old red rash on my head. Or there was a couple of times, I'm sure I've done it, and I've done streams and I've actually had my hoodie, my Mike's Unboxing hat on. Sometimes it's just pure shillery, but other times it's where I've literally just shaved my head and it's got like patches everywhere. But swapping out the blades for the Baron, I think it was, or Baron or the Forte, whichever one's the most expensive one, that worked really well for me. And since then, hand on heart, touch wood, etc., I have never had any razor burn whatsoever in the slightest. Even when I've been jamming the thing against my skull, it does a really good job. So certainly I highly recommend them. There's other great razors on the market, don't get me wrong. And if you just want to go and pick up a Remington or whatever, it's fine. But for me, I never found a shaver where the blades were it just worked for my skin.
And you do your head and your face with the same
Yeah,
ones.
and I do my head and the face with the same one. I use the
What about your manscaping?
4-blade version, and yeah, for the face, and it's got a bit of stubble now because I haven't done it today. But yeah, it works really well. I should say as well, in full disclosure, we are affiliates of Skull Shaver, so if you do purchase stuff from them, we do get a small commission. But honestly, there's another brand which we've worked with previously which offered us a very, very similar deal, but I didn't find the product to be as good. So we don't work with them anymore. And they've asked us a couple of times, we've got a new product, do you want to try it? And it's like, it's okay, we're good. I've found a company that I'm happy using. So yeah, I would happily recommend Skull Shaver. And actually, I quite enjoy their adverts as well. I know it's a stupid thing to say, but their Skull Shaver adverts are actually pretty funny. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find a shaver which works well. And I'm glad I've found one. And thanks to Skull Shaver for reaching out to us in the first place, I think.
William Beatty wants to know, are you trying to tell us you're Scottish? I don't know why.
No, not Scottish. Right. Benny Hill.
Letter says waxing is better, no blades to mess with. We did do a waxing video as well.
We've done waxing, yeah. That's a little bit painful. I'm not entirely keen on waxing, really. It's all right, though. Kenny D says, I wonder if a B450 motherboard can handle a 3900X. Yeah, it can do. I get this a lot, especially from, I would say, some of the more developing countries where they're starting to get stocks available. And they're always on a kind of the previous cycle generation wise. So like when we're on B550, they're on B450, and other countries are on like A320s, etc. So there's that kind of stepping stone effect depending where it is in the world. And because in a lot of countries now the B450 boards were super widespread and now are getting everywhere, there are always the questions, can I use X processor with it? And realistically, even the oldest boards, the processor will physically work. It will turn on. But you have to be mindful that the VRMs on B450 boards weren't designed or envisaged with the kind of high core counts that we've got on modern processors. So if you're going on for a B450 and you're putting a 6-core CPU on there, generally it's going to be fine. 8-core should be okay. If you're going further up, then potentially you're going to have to be considering cooling issues and not pushing it too far. Depends on the board, but yeah, in general, a 3900X on a B450 is kind of okay if it's a decent B450. If it's a cheap entry level one, then it's probably not going to perform at its best. But saying that, a crap B450 board at the bottom end with the 3900X and the top of the range B450, something like the MSI Pro Carbon Wi-Fi, if you benchmark between the two, like Cinebench runs, there probably isn't going to be a massive disparity between them. So it's kind of how much emphasis do you put on the total performance? Do you go more on the kind of the usability in normal Windows? I don't know. Just some things to fool about. Skystalker says, I know people will say I'm full of poop. You're full of poop. But I swear my 5900X is nippier in most tacks than my 5800X 3D. Yeah, I would guess. Yeah, that's a hard one. In theory, you'd think it would be the other way round because the 58X 3D has got more cache on it. So any program that accesses the cache, in theory, should be able to do it quicker. But there's still a lot of programs which, because CPUs don't always have a massive amount of cache, they're not written with that in mind. Potentially as well, it also might be something to do with the Windows scheduler. If you're using Windows 10, it probably won't work as well. If you're on Windows 11, that should be pretty much rectified now. But it depends, I'm pretty sure you'll be on Windows 11, but if you're on Windows 10, that would be why, because the Windows 10 scheduler doesn't work very well with those processors, the X3D ones, from what I can recall. Although Windows 10, I kind of forgotten now, really. Benny Hill says, it's quite depressing. To be honest, I have a wonderful new machine, but the power draw is unaffordable for me at the moment. Yes, it is, yes, I get what you're saying. Somebody asked about a case just now, but I can't see what the question was.
If we've gone past your question.
Yeah, if we've gone past your question, stick it in again, and I will re-examine the question. Kenny D's saying there the 5600 is 118 on Amazon, and the Ryzen 7 5700X is 160. Yeah, when they put it like that, it does kind of. The 5600 is a great CPU and it runs really nice and cool and quiet. But I still don't know if it's enough to jump over the 3600. I have fond memories of both processors, that's the trouble. And the thing is as well, like the 3600, if you sold it, you probably get about, I don't know, 50, 60 quid for it if you're lucky. So if you're only spending about another £60 to get a 5600 upgrade, it's pretty good. But then if you look at the 5700X at 160, you're kind of 50 to 60 pounds that you might get for the processor, plus another 100, but you are stepping up quite significantly in terms of processing power. I don't know. Aletta says, I always try and get the fastest CPU you can afford. Better to have extra power and not need it than need it and not have it. Yeah, I would agree with that actually. I go the opposite way of most people in the mainstream. So most mainstream people are of the mindset of get the fastest GPU you can, that you don't need a fast processor because gaming is pretty much all done on the GPU, which is completely accurate in the majority of times. But I've always been the other way around, so I've gone with a relatively mediocre or mid-range graphics card, but tried to level up a little bit on the CPU. Because I don't spend all my time gaming. It's probably less than 5% of my day. Probably less than that. So it's kind of pointless to have a super graphics card that I'm going to use for maybe half an hour to an hour or answering questions on YouTube, when I could have a fast processor which is going to allow me to do all these other things like snappy, you know? But that's my use case. Most people don't use a PC like me. Some do, some don't. Where do we get it? I understand now. Benny Hill says Mike did showcase it a few months ago. I saw case and was like, I can't see anything to do with the case. Yes, I did. The 5600, I'm sure I did a video about it. I think I've done a couple of videos about it, actually. Oh, tired eyes. Optrex time, yeah.
Gritty eyes.
Gritty eyes, Optrex. So I'm just reading questions here, making sure I'm... William Bodie said, US IQ or EU IQ? Is there a difference? I didn't know that. I've never done an IQ test. I did see recently.
We did years ago.
I think we probably did, but I didn't do the whole thing. I did the usual stoner thing, got halfway through it all.
But that would have been on dial-up, wouldn't it?
Yeah. There was a video from Veritasium, I think it was, and it's like, what does IQ actually measure? And I think IQ tests generally tend to be very much like A-levels. They kind of examine how well you can absorb information and recall it. I wouldn't say, if you have a high IQ, obviously it's awesome, you're a very fast thinker or whatever, but I don't think having a high IQ necessarily makes you intelligent, let's say. I've met a lot of people who are extremely streetwise and know how the world works, but with low IQ.
Do an IQ test, I can't even spell it.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Freedom House 1984. I upgraded PC with a 6700 XT and 3600 to a 5600X, and it was definitely an improvement, but I can't say if it was worth the money. It wasn't my PC. Fair enough. David Aikens coming in there with a super chat. When was that? I didn't see that.
Just.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. Thank you, David, for £2. Chuffed with the Asus AP201. Great video. Cheers, Mike. Has that gone out today? It's patrons.
Yeah.
Ah, well done. Thank you for the loan of that. For those of you that have been pestering and bothering me for ages about the Asus AP201 case, Dave Aiken actually bought one this week. And again, this was another one of those really fast turnarounds. It was delivered here, did the review on it. I didn't do a build on it because it's Dave's case and time, etc., etc., but give it a good overlook. And yeah, I was very impressed. It's a nice case. I'm not entirely sure that the price tag is justifiable. Well, it is justifiable because there's quality. But if you think of what you can get for £90 these days, brand new, there's a big, big market out there. But it has some very cool features. Toolless design, very small, compact, and likely to be absolutely amazing for airflow. So, yeah. Thank you for that, David, and thank you for the £2 super chat. Much appreciated. Pele, or Pile.
There was another one.
I'll find that. Don't interrupt me now because my brain is like on slow go mode. I think I've got a glitch. I think I've become, what's his name?
Mitch.
Mitch McConnell. And carry on.
Or that.
Pile. Hi, Mike. Just built my PC the other week and I've just been noticing that my PC crashes when I play video games for a period of like 15 minutes in. Any ideas on what it could be? GPU drivers are updated. Those are the hardest ones to figure out. They really are.
Discord?
I would suggest, yeah, join our Discord if it's playing games and it's in after about 15 minutes. If it does it almost kind of to 15 minutes pretty much on the button every single time, then it's possibly going to be an overheating issue somewhere. But it's really hard to tell where that could be. It could be your power supply straining a little bit more than it needs to. I would definitely suggest taking a quick download of hardware monitor, install that, run it in the background, and every now and then just flick back over, alt tab into it. If you've got multi-monitors, have it on the other monitor. And keep an eye on your 12 volt, 5 volt and 3.3 volt rails and see if they're dipping at all. If they are dipping too much or sagging, then it's something to look at. Monitor your temperatures as well. If you're CPU or GPU seems to be getting a little bit warmer than it should do. Definitely something to pay attention to. Otherwise, with those sorts of problems, it could be anything. If it's under load, it could be the fact that your power supply, actually from the wall socket, there's something going on there.
They could put the spec in if you want to know.
Probably not needed, but I'll have a look. Yeah, so GPU, power supply, RM 500. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty decent system there. So I don't know if it's a power supplies an RM 850E. Corsair power supplies are generally very good, and I think the RM 850s are made by Seasonic, if I remember rightly. So they're good power supplies, but I would certainly check the rails, because it's like any manufacturing task. They can turn up. Sorry, I was reading another comment there. All power supplies can go bad or have slightly dodgy rails. It can happen. It might even be something stupid like one of the connectors on the motherboard, maybe your EPS connector, is just slightly out, and as the motherboard gets hotter, it expands and it gets to a point where it just pops out a little bit. So check all your electrical connections, make sure they're all firmly connected, temps, etc. If it does crash or black screen, check in the event logs. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be event 41, which just basically means your PC shut down. It might not be though, so do check that. There has been some issues recently, but I think that's more AMD for the black screen driver. Although saying that, no, the latest NVIDIA driver has a black screen issue. So it might be worth rolling back your NVIDIA driver to the previous one. I think the latest one is, I can't see on there, 537. So maybe go back to 527, I think it is. Stuart Cleary took an IQ test and he is so happy. Thank God it came back negative. Well done. Jason was, Mike, you never got back to me about reviewing the PC. Do you want it running 10 or 11? 11, definitely. I'm pretty sure I got your email, but maybe I misunderstood the tone of it. Because you were discussing the case that you weren't going to go with a glass-sided case, but there were still a few things that you were kind of debating on. So I didn't push you on it. I just thought, well, okay, you seem like you're trying to suss out a few things. So, yeah.
And your emails to play up this week. So.
Yeah, my emails I've been playing up this week. So, yeah, I will check again. I'm pretty sure I did answer that. I'm sure there was a reply thing by it, because I did look through that. I will double check. But yeah, I would say Windows 11. Windows 10, if you're thinking of buying or flipping PCs now in 2023, installing Windows 10, I think personally is a bad idea, because there's no security updates now. That is basically it. So if someone has it and it's got Windows 10 on it, and then they go on and do stuff and visit those type of sites that we would normally refrain from, you're basically going in unprotected, which is never a good idea. So I would never in a million years suggest for anyone to install Windows 10 on a modern PC now. Mike P's with us. How you doing, Mike P? Even though I've been looking at buying a second-hand Ryzen 3600, but they're going for over 50 quid on Fleabay. Bit crazy when you can get a new one from Scam for under 70. Yeah, that is the thing. It depends. Like, I would probably, for that money, I'd probably buy a new one. Just for the knowledge that it's not going to be degraded. They do degrade. I actually bought at one point, I think I had 3 or 4. I think it was 4 I had at one point. And I took each processor, put it in my system, done some benchmarks on it, and all 4 of them were very different in performance. And it went from, I think the lowest one benchmarked in Cinebench, I think it was like just under 8,000 points, whereas the best one of the bunch got over 9,000 points. So that's actually quite a big difference. If you think in terms of percentage, that's like 12%, is it? Which is quite a jump. If you bought a CPU and it was performing 12% less than what you thought it was going to be, you'd be pretty pissed. Lucky Man says, turn Mike's FPS up, please. I wish I could. Turn the heat up. It's cold. It's actually quite warm in here. We've had the PCs on all day and editing and doing stuff. It's 24.5 degrees at the moment in here, so it's actually not bad. But it still feels like it's a little bit, like as soon as the PCs turn off, it's going to get cold pretty quick. Skystalker's there saying, memory is a hidden instability. Always try a stock RAM speed if having stability issues. Yeah, that's definitely worth taking a look at. Or conversely, if you haven't got XMP enabled, enable it. David Underhill says, my IQ is not very high, but it was enough to get me membership in Mensa. Congratulations. That's quite a thing, isn't it? I think I'd like to join Mensa, but I don't think I could do it. I don't think my IQ would do it. Definitely these days it wouldn't.
Who was that?
David Underhill. Pele saying, I have the same problem with the old one as well, so I don't know. With the older GPU driver update, okay. Yeah, someone else said there, if it's doing it after 15 minutes, it's likely to be a thermal thing. If you can run it just in Windows and it just runs fine for hours and hours, then it's likely to be a thermal thing if it's doing it after 15 minutes. Did you say it's an Intel system? Yeah, if it's an Intel system and you're using the stock cooler, or you're using any cooler which uses the stock mounting brackets, I would almost 100% look at the back of the board and make sure the plastic tabs are pushed all the way through. Because I've had it myself this week where I've done a stock Intel cooler and only 3 of the plastic tabs were all the way through, and the last one was just like poking through a little bit, so there was uneven pressure. And although the temperature seemed okay, because of that uneven mounting, when it got hot, it did get very hot, which I wasn't expecting. It's like, why the hell is that CPU running at 60 degrees? It's not really doing anything. Then it looked at it, it's like, ah, yeah, of course. Obviously, that's what it is. So check your mounting. That is a very common thing. Didn't say which cooler you have, but I would, if it's the stock Intel cooler, almost 100% it's going to be that mounting pressure. O'Reilly says, ever since I manually set the CPU voltage, I am good. No issues with random hanging or crashes. Good, good. That was in relation to the section above. Gotcha. Yeah, Captain White saying, if it's crashing after 15 minutes, it sounds like a thermal issue. I would definitely agree. William Bodie says, or in Windows is set to turn off after 15 minutes. You never know. David Underhill says, Windows 11 for the win every time. I must admit, I use, when Kath's still got Windows 10 on her PC, and I don't think she's ever going to change to 11, so I don't know what's going to happen there, but
I won't keep 10. If I want to keep before 10, really.
you'd be on Linux next.
I would.
O'Reilly says, certain Windows 10 releases are still supported up to 2025 with security updates. Yeah, the very long VLSI or whatever it is, the very long system integrator one, that will still get updates. And some versions will do, but realistically, it's going to be one of those points as well. If you're on Windows 10 and you're somewhat of an enthusiast or someone, maybe you just built your first PC. If you're putting a new PC together and you're going for Windows 10, you're going to be at the point where when things are going wrong or you're trying to work out how to use your PC, you're going to be looking at videos online and they're mostly going to be Windows 11. And you'll be like, well, hang on, I'm on Windows 10. How do I do it in Windows 10?
I've got a dog, what about myself?
Yeah, Kath will just ask me and I'll try and figure it out.
Not stupid.
But I think they...
I passed IIQ test.
I think they're significantly different enough that trying to get technical support for Windows 10 in a Windows 11 world is going to become more and more tricky. I could be wrong. It's happened before. Freedom House says most motherboards undervolt for stability. They do, but then that can also lead to crashing because you're getting that sudden drop in core voltage. But if you're still running a game or something, which is requiring higher clock speeds or whatever, it's kind of immovable object meets unstoppable force, and it's like, well, who's going to win? The CPU is demanding more power, or it's going to face a crash. The system says, I can't give you more power because otherwise I'm going to overheat. So they basically fight amongst each other for a few milliseconds and then turn off. Black screen. It depends on the logic on the board, I suppose, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Benny Hill, I started building PCs back in 2005-ish from picking up scrap machines from the tip. Happy days.
Do you remember when you made me drive down the road because you'd seen a skip on your way to work with a PC hanging out of it and made me go down there and pick it up?
Yeah, and it was crap and we chucked it away.
Yeah, but still had to do it. Like, scabby.
Tilly worked... swapping out parts until they worked. Pentium 2, 3 and 4 were cool back then. I miss the days of the Pentium 2 and the Pentium 3. Med Ryan, 5600X. Oh, shite, wrong button. That's F1. I don't want to do F1. That's Google Help.
Benny Hill says those were the days, but it wasn't that long ago you made me do it.
5600X or 3400F for gaming. Again, it's coming back to that thing, is gaming all you're doing? If it's literally all you're doing, if you just turn on your PC, fire up a game, you don't fire up any emails or you don't spend time researching or shopping or anything like that, then I would say probably the 5600X. The 13400, I'm guessing, is going to be more expensive. The platform itself is probably going to be more expensive as well. And you're losing any ability to overclock. So with the 5600X, when it gets to the point where it's starting to slow down, you want to overclock it a little bit, then you could do, although I guess again the argument is most processors these days kind of self-overclock, not much over what they are out of the box, so that is almost a moot point, but still a little bit of overclocking can do a lot. I probably wouldn't go with the 13400F personally. I think you're probably better off with the 12400 because it's basically the same thing. I think the 13400F is like 100 megahertz faster. It's literally just a refresh. Maybe some slight refinements to it, but very little to kind of differentiate it between the 12th gen. I think on the 13th gen, you don't really get any difference in actual cores and performance until you get to the 13500 and the 13600. Those are closer to the 13700 than they are the other end. But yeah, I don't know. It depends what you've got already. If you're building a brand new system, AM4 is kind of getting towards the end of its life cycle. Intel LGA 1700 is going to get a refresh on 14th gen later this year, possibly early next year. So arguably they've probably got a very similar lifespan, but if you're planning to build it and keep it for 5 years, then I guess it doesn't make a difference either way. Some games will benefit from an Intel processor because of just Intel. Tough call. I'm guessing the 13400F is going to be considerably more expensive as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that everyone could be... there's pros and cons for both. It's not there's not a clear-cut winner there by any means. Unless you're looking at price, in which case there might be. Dave Aiken, Mike, are you interested in Starfield? Everyone is losing their shit about it. To be honest with you, no. I thought I had it free, but it turns out that I bought my graphics card from Tech Next Day, who it would seem are not in the AMD promotion, or perhaps they are, perhaps not. What that was up there? I could see two green things, and it's the cat's eyes up there. Or is it? Oh no, it's not. It's the.
Two cats.
No, I can still see the eyes. It's the LED from the bloody light switch.
Coming in, Maisie?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even sure what Starfield is about. Is it a first-person shooter? Is it an adventure game? Is it like Fallout? I don't know what the deal is. I haven't really paid much attention, to be honest. I've seen it and I've heard a lot about it and people like getting excited about it, but I've not really. Yeah, it's kind of on my radar, but only a very minor blip out in the distance somewhere.
Okay, baby.
Bag of tips. I just discovered the noisiest component in my rig is the PSU. It's a Corsair RGB 650 watt. Any suggestions for an 850 watt PSU that is quiet, maybe zero spin at idle? Sadly, I am broke, so 100 quid budget. Probably the Thermaltake GFA 850. If you go, the GFA is a GFA 3, sorry. Yeah, GFA 3 850. The GF3 is more expensive. The GF3A uses Japanese capacitors but slightly lower tier ones to get it in at a better price. So you probably find you can get that for, I think it's less than £80 at the moment. I could be wrong on that. I haven't looked specifically at that particular one, but I'm pretty sure it's under 100. I could be wrong. But yeah, I would possibly look at that. It does seem to me that pretty much every RGB fan in a power supply is noisy. It just doesn't seem there's anything you can do about it. I don't know why it is. In theory, an RGB fan shouldn't make any more or less noise than its non-RGB brethren. But they all do. The GameMax, what model was that? The RGB 550s upwards. All of them have got a noisy fan. And they use quite a big one. It's got like 140 mil. Excuse me. I don't know what it is. And even the Thermaltake one I got behind me is the GF3 RGB 850. And I've got it in zero fan mode because I turned it off. So it's literally silent at the moment. But if I turn it on, you might be able to hear it actually. Where's the switch? Is that a switch? It feels different with my other hand. There, I've turned it on now. A little gust of air come out.
That code.
Yeah. Let me put my.
Sit on your hand. Does it feel different there?
It does. Let me put my microphone by the power supply, and I'll give you a demonstration, whilst you try not to look at my ass. So that is with the fan on. Oh no, that's the main power switch. No, that's made no difference at all. Jinx. Is that actually on? No, that's... I can't see if it's stopped now. Right. Oh yeah, let's go. Oh, typical. Oh, sod it, I'll leave it on then. That's weird, because that fan used to make a bit of noise, and I used to just leave it off, because I thought, well, it's got a zero fan, it only kicks in over... I think it's if it's at 40 degrees or something, which it realistically never gets to anyway, because that case pushes air through like shit through a goose. Popsy how you doing?
On that note.
What's go on? Okay, whatever. There's a fly on the screen. I'm going to get it. What can I get it with? That fly has been messing around all day, so I'm going to bust him. Oh no, hang on. You'll see if I catch if I do like that. Did I get him? This is the height of the entertainment on tonight's show. Killing a fly. Pele forgot to mention the motherboard, but it's a Z490 Aorus Elite. There, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Make sure, actually, something you could do is update the BIOS if you haven't done already.
Hit our wolf on that fly.
Did it? Sorry, Ivory. Yeah, I would. Benny Hill. I qualified for Mensa and I failed Mensa and qualified for Densa. Well done. Motherboard wise, I would definitely try a BIOS update. If you're not on the latest version, it's worth doing that for stability anyway.
You didn't get it because Poppy Dora is looking for it now. Where is it, Pops? Or O'Reilly says sprinkle catnip on the fly and the cats will eat it. Poppy will eat it anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Where is it?
Captain White says, Mike, do you know any of the guys from Kit Guru? Met James Dawson the other day. Turns out he's about 10 minutes from me. I've had a couple of conversations, well, not conversations, we've had a couple of messages back and forward with James. I think I did with Matt as well. Don't think I have with Leo. Might have done ages and ages ago, like a long time ago. But no, don't really know them. To be honest with you, most of the YouTube community, I don't really kind of work with or collaborate with or really discuss much with, because there's not really a great deal that we kind of need to. I suppose if there's ever like a product launch and we've all got samples sent at the same time, if we're experiencing problems, then we'll kind of message each other and say, look, I think you're reviewing this as well. I'm doing this. Are you experiencing the same? Just to kind of bounce ideas around. But in general, these days, because most product launches are quite well staggered, and I think they've actually learned that most manufacturers now, what they'll do is they know there's a product launch. So they'll hit the big channels with review samples first of all. Then they'll get the videos done. They'll then send the cases or the GPUs or the motherboards back to HQ. HQ then bang them out to the next people. So there's like almost like a tier list, and like companies like Thermaltake, MSI, etc., they don't have literally like a warehouse full of stock which they're allowed to pull from to give to reviewers. That is a very, very rare thing to happen. It's extremely rare, to be honest with you, especially when it comes to motherboards and GPUs and stuff like that. So yeah, they'll do the cycle. So sometimes, like, if I get something and I know that it's going to be going to like eTechnics or something next, maybe I'll put a little message in the box or send them an email. Or I think there was a couple of times I actually put in Mike's Unboxing pens into the boxes to go on to the next reviewer, although they never mentioned it. So, but yeah, well, I don't really. The only person I've probably spoken to in any great depth, I suppose, would be Graham from Adamant IT. Probably more than most. Yeah, there's probably other people that do YouTube stuff which I've spoken with, but most of us are like so busy with our own shit going on that it's like you don't get time to talk to your family, let alone like other people on the interweb.
Jason Woods off.
Cheers, Jason. Michael Ellingham, how you doing? Says Assassin's Creed Black Flag keeps crashing on Windows 11. Any fixes? Honestly, no. I've no idea. I don't think that is a kind of like a known issue. I'm guessing with that because that's Ubisoft, isn't it? So in the Ubisoft actual kind of container or the browser thing they use, there's an option in there which I think you can do clear cache and also validate files. Probably worth validating the files, making sure that they're all okay. That could be an issue. If you get to a point where it crashes on exactly the same part every time and it's repeatable, then worth taking a look at hardware monitor, check your power supply, make sure that all the voltages are stable and over and above what they should be. So the 12 volt should be at like 12.05 or something. The 3.3 should be at like 3.35 or 3.4. The 5 volt should be 5.05 or something. So they should all be slightly above their rated wattages or voltages. If they're below, then you could be getting dips in your power supply. I had that with, what game was I had it with? I think it's Far Cry 6. Or was it 5? I can't remember now. It might have been 6. And I'd get to the same point in Far Cry 6 with my system, and every single time it would crash religiously on the same point. I was like, what the hell's going on here? And it turned out it was my power supply. But put the power supply into another system and it was absolutely fine. So sometimes your computer, because of the combination of parts, it just hits the power supply a little bit hard in a certain area. And it's like, ugh, I don't quite have the ability to do this. So that would be something which I would definitely check. Other than that, being that you are a paid up member of the YouTube community, feel free to drop in on the Discord and I will try and help you as much as I possibly can, or obviously others in the Discord will also. Med Ryan says hello, hello. Hello. O'Reilly says Windows 10 LTS license. That's it. Long time service, and that's the one. Aletta says to Skystalker, these days most overclocking is just something to play around with. The difference between 3200 CL16 and 3800 CL14 was about 5%. So it is a tangible difference, but not always straightforward and quick, easy to do. And like all things, like modern PC stuff, is literally all of it is kind of, is like running blindfold along the Great Wall of China. And it's like any slight distraction or any slight deviation, you're going to fall off the wall. And it's the same for computers, because they're kind of already on the limit anyway of what they can do. Like AMD, Nvidia, Intel, etc., Gigabyte, MSI, all of their stuff is designed to be kind of peak performance out of the box. So it's kind of running balls to the wall all the time. So yeah, you make any sort of changes, overclocking, potentially, yeah, you might get slightly faster RAM or faster GPU or faster CPU, but potentially you might increase instability or give the opportunity for instability to creep in, which is never a good thing. Captain White says switch to 11, then realised couldn't pin folder shortcuts to the taskbar. Can you not? So what's that? Like a file or a folder actually inside of a folder? A file or a program inside of a folder you can't pin to the taskbar? I'm sure you can.
Quite way back.
Yeah, I probably am. I'll speed up. Stuart Cleary recently done a build for my son and installed Windows 10. Life is complicated enough, I thought. Fair enough. Lucky Man, question. Sometimes my desktop apps do not respond after multiple hits with my mouse. Any ideas, Mike? No, welcome to Windows. I get that myself, actually, especially on, have you got AM5? Because I've noticed it a couple of times on that system. The AM5, I think it's something to do with the way the scheduler works and core parking. And it seems to be, every now and then, I'll click on something and it's like, are you going to open? And then I'll move the mouse off the folder or the shortcut, move it back on, double click again, and it'll open. And I'm always thinking, is it me? Is it the mouse? Is it the mouse button? And if I had a wireless mouse, I would put it down to just a glitch in the matrix. But I think it is more to do with core parking.
AM4.
If it's AM4, yeah, potentially if it's a multi-core as well, it could be down to core parking. I'm working on a video, hopefully this week coming, on how to kind of prevent that sort of thing happening. Because I've had it myself, and it is really frustrating, and it is literally where, because you've got the core scheduler, or the Windows scheduler, and you've also got core parking. So basically, if you've got like 8 cores, you don't need all 8 cores running at the same time for efficiency. So Windows will say, well, this program is running, that program is running, so if we shut off these 4 cores, we can run on those 4, and then if a program needs it, we can open up the other one. But what Windows will quite often do is, so if you're maybe doing something completely different, and then you go onto a desktop and click on a folder or a shortcut or whatever it is, Windows has to think about it, and it almost glitches out for a bit, and it's like kind of, well, what core should we use? And it has a look through, says, well, those cores are in use, those are parked, should we use those? Not sure. And it kind of gets into a little bit of a loop internally, which just gives you that lag. And then all of a sudden it says, F it. Turns on the cores, and then the program will open, or you can click on it again and then it would open straight away. So I think it's something to do with core scheduling and core parking. You can actually disable core parking completely, very easily, which is what I'll be doing a video on to hopefully alleviate that. You do have a slight performance penalty because, well, not performance, you get better performance because it's more snappy, but you do get the penalty of not having such good efficiency. So cores that would normally be parked and not using any power will be active, and you can choose whether they're fully active, semi-active, whatever. So yeah, we'll have a look at that. There will be a video coming out shortly. Hopefully that answers your question a little bit. Benny Hill, some of my old machines, Mike, Windows 10 keeps asking to complete setup. Yeah, it's like, complete setup? I should have done that 5 years ago. Mark Berry says, by the time I get Windows 11, it'll be Windows 12. I think it's probably not far off, yeah. I'm going to start at the bottom and work back upwards, I think. Lucky Man, dodgy mouse button. I thought that as well. That's why I went through all that aggro. And actually, this mouse, is this the one I did it on? Yeah, this one, you can see the actually, is it? Or is that just dirt? I can't think if that's the one I did. I don't think that is. If I did do it on this one, I've done a bloody good job. No, I didn't. On the other MSI GM30, I thought the same thing. So I've swapped out the mouse buttons. Not the mouse buttons, the mouse switches for better switches, thinking that was it. I'm still not entirely 100% sure. That seemed much better, the new one, because I bought 2 of those. But anyway, another story. Skystalker says, I want that video today, Mike. Turn off core parking now. Well, there is an app. Let me see.
All right then.
Did I put it in? I put it in my reviewed links folder, I think. Where are we? Review links. How to control? No, CTE. Why is that not on there? I can't see it. Right, I was going to hopefully give you the link there, but I cannot find it for the life of me.
Where's Ugly Bob gone?
I'll post it in the Discord for anyone who wants the ability to make their system more snappy, and also to get rid of core parking. I will put that as soon as I finish the stream. I'll try and find it on my other. I'm sure I've saved it somewhere, but it doesn't seem to be on there. But yeah, I will put the link into the Discord. JB's Arcade, how you doing? Good to see you. Riley says, to pin a folder in the taskbar in Windows 11 is doable, but you need some manual editing. Create a shortcut to the folder and edit it so it opens Explorer EXE. There you go. Thank you, Riley. JB's Arcade Mods, if your computer runs slow, delete porn. Those are these. Do people still keep porn on their computer? I honestly would like to know. I can't imagine that's the thing in 2023. You never know. Med Ryan says, in my country here, Intel motherboards are much more accessible and better featured overall. For example, B550M DS3H costs like $200 less, $20 less than B760M Gaming XAX. That's interesting. It's almost the other way around here. Intel boards generally carry somewhat of a premium. Although saying that, all motherboards are bloody expensive here at the moment. Skystalker says, these days overclocking typically means with exotic, aka expensive cooling, PSU, motherboard, RAM, and on, to get a 5 to 10% increase is silly. Yeah, this is one of those things which I battle with internally all the time. It's like, PC stuff is cool and I like tinkering around with it. And if it's relatively straightforward to get a bit more performance, I'm very happy to do so. But when, like with water cooling, if I'm looking at spending sort of £500 to make my processor a bit faster and a bit cooler, it isn't really about making it faster or cooler. It's about creating something from a kit like in terms of pipe bending and fittings and all that kind of stuff. It's more of an art installation than it is an exercise in overclocking or PC performance. And I think that's where we, especially for reviewing products, it's really difficult to say that a product is good, bad, indifferent, expensive, cheap, waste of money, etc. Because it depends on your mindset. If you want a PC which just looks amazing, it doesn't necessarily have to be the fastest, and it still may cost more than the fastest PC. But to you, it may look amazing. Like, look at the people who do custom car stuff in America. You get people spending absolutely ridiculous amounts of money, like double the price of the actual car, to make it look the way they want it to look, with like carbon fiber bonnets, scoops, engine modifications, all that kind of stuff. And they could probably just go out and buy like a Ferrari or something, which would be faster. But it's that whole kind of modding ethos, which is what kind of carries a lot of it along. And it's good because those people doing that, going to the extreme for PC cooling or PC hardware in general, they're the ones that are pushing the envelope so that us, a little bit lower down the stack, can reap the rewards of that a generation or two after.
All for Indigo's camping in Bath.
Ah, nice one. Don't get wet. Alpha Indigo. I didn't see that. Where is that?
You're quite behind, aren't you?
I'm at the bottom.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a little bit up then. Camping in Bath, not far from you.
All right. Coolio. I quite like Bath. It's all right. Nice place. Not the shopping centre. Bastards. David, UT. Hello, Mike. Can you please help me? Yesterday I got my first PC with a Ryzen 5 4600G, an A520M-K motherboard, and after installing Windows I noticed that both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are just not there. I don't think that the A520M-K actually has either of those things. I will check, hang on a second. M-K. Is that the Asus Prime one, yeah? Actually, touch cell, who the bloody hell are they? They can shove it up their arse. No, doesn't have it. Yeah, the A520MK from Gigabyte doesn't have it. It doesn't have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So if you haven't got a separate card or Wi-Fi USB stick, then it hasn't got it on board. So you'll need to buy an adapter for that. Let's see if there's a reply. Is there a reply? Nope, can't see.
I haven't seen one.
No.
Oh, so, yeah, just come in.
Ah, yeah, David, there you go at the bottom. So I can only use Wi-Fi via Ethernet cable. Yes, if you don't have like a USB dongle, like, wait, this is where I drop it all. So you'll either need one of these, like a little USB dual band Bluetooth Wi-Fi receiver, which you can just plug into your PC. That will allow you to connect to the internet. If you don't have one of those available, or one of those ones with antennas and stuff, then you're going to need to plug in a Ethernet cable into the back of the PC. Luckily these, depending where you are, normally you can pick these up for somewhere in the region of about £10 here in the UK. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but they're relatively inexpensive. So if you don't have one, it's not the end of the world. It is one of those things which is obtainable for relatively little money. Or better still, just get Bob drunk and he'll send you them. I think I actually bought that one though. Jason Lung. How you doing, Jason? He's asking, is it advisable to upgrade to Windows 10? Upgrade Windows 10 to 11 via the free upgrade. Yeah, I would. Like, I'm using Windows 11 on basically everything I own, I think, right now. The only Cav's PC is the only one. Well, George's is on that as well.
And Angels.
And Angel's laptop's on 10, but then actually that might even be on 7 still, because I don't think it's been used whilst 10 was available. It might just have got it. I'm not sure. I think it might be 7.
Spectre Boyfriends is on 10.
Yeah. I like Windows 11. I find it to be basically it's Windows 10, but with a few other features kind of thrown in. It doesn't really. I actually do like the taskbar thing being in the middle. I didn't think I was going to like that, but you can tell it's going to work because when Apple first came out with OS X back in, what was it, 2000 and whatever. Actually, was it in the 90s? It might have even been, 2004, I think OS X came out. Someone can Google that, I'm not going to bother. But they moved the taskbar. You had that center bit with all your icons and your search box and that. And if you look at early versions of OS X and you look at Windows 11, it's kind of like, you can see why they've done it, because it just works, because it is central. When you're watching or consuming content, when you're doing anything on your computer, where do you normally look? Normally, you're looking at the center of the screen. And if you need to see anything else, you kind of move your eyes off it. But normally, you're looking central. So actually having the taskbar, or the Windows bar, whatever, in the center and then spreading out as you add more, to me, it makes perfect sense. I didn't think I was going to like it, but I've been using it for so long now that when I use Windows 10 and the taskbar is over on the left, it's like, this seems so backward. Like, why? Why would it not be in the middle? It just makes no sense to be off to one side. I know it's like a kind of like a step back from the old versions of Windows, like Windows. The Windows 3.1 have a taskbar start thing. It didn't, did it? It would have been Windows. Actually, yes, it did. Windows NT4 and Windows 3.11, I think, both had the Windows thing on the left-hand side. So yes, it makes sense. I like it. I like Windows 11. And Windows 12, I think, is pretty much going to be a very much a kind of AI extension. I've already got some fear of Windows 12. I don't think it's going to be... I think it's going to be more like a Windows Vista, where they're going to put so much of this AI shit in there that everything is going to be like all these little extra things doing AI things in the background. And it's like, I don't want that. I just want my operating system to do things. If I want to have AI do things, then give me the option to install it if I want it. That's what they should have done. With Windows 95, because of the limitations of hard drives, etc., you got it on disks. Same with Windows 98. When you're installing it, you go through and it's like, do you want to add in multimedia extensions? Do you want to add in games? Do you want to add in MSN browser? All these kind of things. And it's like, it was your choice. And I think that was the right way to go. And then if you wanted to add things later, you click on add remove programs or add remove features, and you could add things in at a later date if you needed them, which I feel was the right way to go. Start off minimal, work your way up. But now it's kind of like, right, have the whole bloody lot, including a load of games and shortcuts to things that I don't even want. Like, I don't think I've even got them on here. I'm going to have a look. So I've basically removed it. So my start flag now is Edge, Office 365, Mail, the store, Photos, Settings, Xbox, Solitaire and Casual Games, I've left it on there. The to-do list, I'm going to go uninstall. Never use that. Calculator, I use. Clock, I use obviously. Notepad, Notepad's Notepad. Paint, I use. Films and TV, I use that just for opening up documents and pictures. The tips one, can I uninstall that? Yes, I can. Let's uninstall tips. Calendar, I do use that every now and then. File Explorer, obviously, almost daily. And the other one is the Synology Active Backup for Business, which is there. But other than that, that is it on my kind of my app section. So it's quite minimal. I do get rid of a majority of that. Skystalker says you load Xbox on startup. My startup is a fearful thing. It is absolutely horrendous. Actually, let me have a look, see if I can got it on here. Now, is it me or does that red look really vivid there? Or is it, are my eyes just shot to pieces? I don't know. Right, so I've got Afterburner, I've got Riva Tuner, I've got Thermaltake RGB Plus, I've got NVIDIA settings, I've got Microsoft PC Manager, I've then got Stream Deck, OBSBot Webcam, Epic Launcher, Steam Launcher, MSI Center, OBS Studio, Microsoft Security, and OneDrive. So there are 13 things in my little taskbar there going on. Not a taskbar. What do they call that bit? It's not a taskbar, is it? Because that's a taskbar. What is that bit there? Next to it by the clock. There's a name for it. I can't think what it is. Which is why I go back to that thing that I said earlier. We're not just PC gamers. If I play games on my PC, yes, I am gaming, but there's all that other crap in the background, and even if I haven't got it there, it's still installed somewhere generally.
Toolbar tray, taskbar,
Tray.
sidebar.
System tray, thank you. That is what it's called. System tray.
Oh, sorry. Didn't read that one because it says try.
Yeah, it's the system tray extension, I think they call it. Or system tray not overlay. What's the thing when you go over a limit? Like an extension? I don't know. Anyway, you get the general idea. Where are we? Right. System tray and sidebar depending on what you trigger on the right. Fair dues. Andy Archer says Windows 95 GUI was the best one ever. I'm old enough to remember it pretty well. And I was actually watching... I've watched the Steve Jobs thing, which was done with Michael Fassbender? Or Benderfass, or whatever his name is. I don't know. Some geezer. He played Steve Jobs. And it was actually really good. I really enjoyed that. And also the one where... I think the other guy is now, who was in Dude, Where's My Car? Aaron Kutcher, is it? Ashton Kutcher, that's it, sorry. Yeah. I do like watching the Steve Jobs things because it kind of gives you some idea of where we've come from. And I find it really fascinating, especially there was a Bill Gates and Steve Jobs interview it's either 2004 or 2007, I can't remember. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long. And it's just a really good interview because you could see where they were heading. And obviously we now know that obviously Steve Jobs was like terminally ill. So it's kind of weird to watch that in hindsight with what they were planning. And this was, I think, a couple of weeks or a couple of months before the iPad was going to be announced or launched. And you could see that he was kind of edging towards leaking it. He was talking about the iPod and the iPhone, I think. But I don't think the iPad came out. Did the iPad come out before the iPhone?
Yeah.
So it must have been before the phone came out then. No, because the phone was out. So I'm not sure what it was he was talking about. But anyway, it was a very interesting thing watching the two, because obviously Bill Gates and Steve Jobs at points in the kind of 80s literally hated each other. And to get past all of that rivalry from the back in the day to be kind of possibly, as much as I hate to say it for Bill Gates' point of view, but probably two of the most influential people in computing ever, really. You can pretty much go to anywhere in the world and ask someone, do you know who Steve Jobs is? And pretty much they'll know. Same for Bill Gates, but potentially not for the same reasons, let's say. So yeah, it was a very cool thing. Yeah, I do look back on the computing heyday with a lot of. it just is a nice thing where we've come and how we've got to where we have. Some of the crazy things we've been through, and some of the designs which worked, some of them that didn't. Some of the kind of the obvious things, like the iPod was like the most obvious thing ever that would be a fantastic thing for people to have, and obviously it turned out to be that way. But how we never saw it until Steve Jobs was like, here, this is what you need, and it's like, oh my god, and it just blew up, much like the iPhone did. And it seems weird that at the time of the iPhone, Microsoft were working on their phone and tying in with things like Nokia at the time and Ericsson, I think it was. So they were just making software for the phones without having a full-fledged OS. And you had the mobile version of Windows 95, I think. Can't remember what it was called now. Windows Mobile, whatever it was anyway. And like we were so close. But then the iPhone came in and it's like, okay, this is clearly how it's going to be for the rest of the time. It does seem that way. Anyway, so yeah, that was very good. I enjoyed Reminiscing. And it was a nicer time when people were... You got to think that back then, you would load your entire operating system into like 14K. Not 14 megabytes or 14 gigabytes. 14K. Absolutely insane. Windows CE, that was it. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Stuart Cleary with a super chat there. If you're working on something that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, love him or hate him, he was an extremely charismatic person. He may have been an absolute asshat to work for, but he did have a lot of charisma. Maisie! Hello. You alright, Babs? You've been asleep all day in the Olzai box. Bless her heart. That's not no, that's Maisie. There's 4 cats. Got Maisie, Daisy, Poppy, and Flame. I had to think then. Thank you for that, Stuart. Much appreciated. Mark says, had an LG with a stylus, full slide-out keyboard, and Windows CE. Yeah, I really, really wanted Windows CE to be like a thing and to be the future. What was the BT phone? I can't think which one it was that had Windows CE on it. Was it BT? There was one which was like really, really popular. Quite a big thing, almost like a tablet really, but it was great. Loved it, but it just didn't take off as well as I thought it was going to. Darren says, my first PC, 486, deleted a system file.
No.
Cost me 40 quid to have it fixed. Learned to repair after that. Oh my god, dial-up was so slow.
Oops, wrong one.
I was in the same position. That was when Kath and I got married back in 1994. 94 we got married?
No, 6.
96, close. When we got married back in 1996, we were given some money by Kath's parents as a wedding present. And it's like, well, what are we going to do? And we kind of wanted a computer. And at the time, it was 1996. So Windows 95 had not long come out. People were not really kind of into it. There was techies which were still loving it. And the internet was very, very much in its infancy. And we decided we'd buy a computer. And I think the first one we bought, I'm pretty sure was a 386. It might have been a 486, but I think it was a 386. And it was actually 2 of the people that I worked with. They had a little side hustle going, building PCs. So it was like, yeah, cool, let's do this. So built up our first PC, got it, had Windows 95 installed on it.
And a little tight printer with that ribbon in.
Oh yeah, we had a dot matrix printer, a colored dot matrix printer with a colored ribbon. So it had a red, a green and a blue ribbon. And literally it would push pins onto the paper to create an image. It was quite something in its day, but by modern standards, it is awful. So yeah, we had the 386 PC. I think it was SX 386. I'm pretty sure it was at 33 megahertz. So this was basically a long time ago. I managed to ruin it because I didn't know what I was doing, and much like pretty much most people in the PC universe and world, you kind of have to learn to do these things. And it got to the point where I actually kind of learned to open it all up, looked inside, seen what it's all about, and yeah, Pop has seen that fly. And I got to the point where I had installed Windows enough times that I thought, actually, I would like to build a PC. So I got into that point of like basically building PCs, but I didn't have the money because we were very poor, and it was like, if anybody I worked with wanted a PC, I would build a PC for them. And if they wanted to pay me a little bit to do it, then fine. If not, it was great for just gaining experience. So that's basically how I started out. It was good fun, and enjoyed it. Benny Hill says, 30 years, you two, oh, you crazy people. Well done, there is hope. Yeah, it'll be 30 years, won't it, next year?
No, not in 96.
Oh, no, 96, sorry, yeah, I said 94 first of all, sorry. 30 years, I was like, oh my God, I could have committed serious felonies and got out. Right, George?
That's a horrible thing to say, isn't it, George?
I'm a horrible person. Captain White, £2 super chat. Thank you, Captain White. And actually a serious question. Does Kath play computer games? She plays mobile phone games more than she plays computer games. She has played computer games. She used to like playing things like The Sims and that. Unfortunately, we are very much kind of like I am. You're basically doing stuff all the time. So actually getting time dedicated to play games is actually really hard. So we don't as much as we used to. When we first got the PC, I think towards 1997, I'm thinking it must have been. Yeah, because if we got the PC in 96, it must have been 97. And then yeah, a couple of years before George came along, and that was when we had the green room, wasn't it? Because we did that before, long before George, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had our little computer room, and if we ever had any sort of free time, or because I was working shifts at the time, I would get like 3 days off sometimes in a row, and being stoners, we would go out to the local computer shop, RJ Computers, in Westbourne Road in Downend, and we'd go in there and spend some of our hard-earned wages on would buy basically a game each. So Kath, I think, bought SimCity.
No, that one opened back then. I had to get Dizzy games from there.
Oh yeah.
That's all like ST.
Yeah, it might have been Dizzy. No, it was. We got PC games in there because that's where I bought my 4-point surround speaker set that you're currently using.
Dizzy games it was, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, we buy basically computer games and we go and play them. I bought my creative 4-point surround speaker system, which is actually still on either my desk or Kath's desk. I'm not sure.
No, because you swapped my desk.
Yeah.
Cambridge Audio.
Cambridge Audio, FPS 1000, 4-point surround, still running.
Had those speakers, didn't he?
He did. I watched that video and I was like, yes, rock on, man. So they were great. It was good. And yeah, we'd just get to the point where we would play games for hours at a time, eating pizza from a delivery service locally, and probably drinking litres and litres of cola, and just sat there playing games for a good few hours until one of us was either too stoned or too tired. One of us would fall asleep on the bed and the other one would say, oh, I'll go and play my game for a bit then. And then we'd probably wait for the milk float to go past in the morning, delivering the milk, and the birds start singing. It's like, oh, what time is it? Oh, pizza and games. And we would do that for probably 48 hours.
George, we did that
was
when
good.
I was pregnant with you.
Wow.
William Bodie says, question, who did Just Talk? That's our son George.
When I was pregnant with George, when we stayed up all night playing Motocross Madness with my cousin and his friend.
Yeah, we did.
With Uncle Paul.
It's good times. Captain White says, I'll be having a good old-fashioned LAN party on Saturday the 20th. You're welcome, but it is 4 hours from you.
That's Sunday, isn't it?
Sunday the 20th. Yeah, Sunday 20th, yeah. 4 hours? I'll be lucky to travel 4 minutes away. But thank you for the offer. David Underhill, my first computer system was a TRS-80 in 1978. Several dozen since then, and hundreds made and sold. Fun fact, the TRS-80 was part of probably, I think, 3 of the main computers outside of the IBM compatibles, which Microsoft actually actively wrote software for. So you had the Apple II, the TRS-80, and I can't think what the third one is. No, it's gone. But yeah, the TRS-80 was a big thing, it really was. Tristan G says, remember the early days of playing Civilization on my Commodore, and then on the 386. Yeah, it's good times. I miss it, I really do. Irie Wolfman, married, 2012, 2013 baby, 2014 baby, 2022 baby, 2023, 40 years old, sitting watching Mike with a bad back while everyone sleeps. Oh, bless you. Hope your back feels better soon. Having a bad back is a really terrible thing. I've been actually, I shouldn't say it, but I've been really lucky recently. My back has been actually pretty okay. We do make a very, very concerted effort to actually go for a walk every day at some point now. And it certainly is,
The last time was
is helping.
that stream in your back went, and then you used my wand, and you haven't had anything back since, have you?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Magic wanded it. Bandy says, say Mike, let's have a picture of you with hair. Is there one on the side of the fridge you can grab?
Don't think so. I'll find one on my phone.
Skystalker says TRS-80 actually had a flight simulator by Microsoft. There you go, see? If you could call it that. Yeah, it was quite different, wasn't it? Copy Stuff says, what happened to the motherboard you sent back to CCL? Oh god, that was the Asus Strix D4, wasn't it? The B660 D4. That, yeah, basically it still didn't work with the 13500. I'm still having problems with it now. I've got the NZXT. It's literally here because I've been... Fair shout, NZXT might not be everyone's cup of tea, but their support is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I can't... Unfortunately, I cannot remember the name off the top of my head, but the support contact I've got at NZXT at the moment is incredible. Genuinely incredible. Very attentive, keeps on asking questions, trying to work out what the problem is. So I'm very pleased. But I've got this board. This just refuses to allow it. It won't boot with the 13500 installed unless there's a graphics card. So even though the 13500 has got integrated graphics, oh dear, and should in theory work from the DisplayPort or HDMI port, it refuses to boot past the RAM training with the 13500 in it. And we don't know why. There's something in the logic where it refuses to do it. Which is essentially exactly the same as what was happening with the Strix B660. But at least in this instance, NZXT are actually kind of battling with us and trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So I do have to say massive, massive shout out to NZXT for that, because they could just get to the point and say, look, it's not on the supported processor list. We're very sorry. Have a nice day. But they haven't. They're actually getting into it and asking questions, which I endorse. Skystalker says, question, does NZXT make an AMD motherboard? Yes, I believe they do. Yeah. Captain White says, try a different 13500. I would love to, but I don't have another one. And I'm not going to buy another one just to see if it works. The 13500 with the integrated graphics works fine on a B760 chipset. But on the B660 chipset, for some reason, it's just not having it. And it does appear to be like a thing. So there is something actually in the 13th gen architecture which prevents it from working properly. I don't know what it is, but it is like it's a BIOS incompatibility. I think it's the 13100, 13400, and the 13500 all do the same thing because they're the C0 or B0 stepping of the processor. So yeah, it's looking for a B0, but it's a C0. So it's something to do with the motherboard logic. She's looking at the fly in the window. Captain White, yeah, maybe the iGPU. It is. I did think that. But it does work with the. I had it on my B760 Tomahawk. Not a problem at all. Worked first time every time. Wolfman says, Mike, try putting a GPU in the second slot and then turning the onboard as the main. Well, that's the thing. If I put a GPU in it, it works straight away. Every single time. It boots up, no worries. But the thing is, it should be able to use the onboard graphics. Now, I know it's a very stupid thing, and I could just, well, realistically, you wouldn't want to use the Intel onboard graphics as your graphics anyway. And to be honest with you, when you're using it in like video editing or rendering or OBS or something, you physically wouldn't connect to it anyway, because you'll just use QuickSync, which is in the logic of the processor. So you don't actually display what it's doing, it's done internally. But it's just like, if I put that into a system and I build in it, and then I think, well, I'm going to sell it, I've got to explain then to the potential buyer, look, this has got integrated graphics, but it don't work. And this isn't a conversation I want to have. I'd rather buy like a 12400 or something and stick it on the board and be done with it. And then maybe get another 700 series board at a later date for that processor. It's a bit of a nose, really. Skystalker says, wow, I might actually have to try the NZXT motherboard if they have good BIOS support. X670 chipset model. I would imagine they will do. I think they only started doing AM4 very recently, or AMD boards. They were traditionally always Intel based, I think, or is it the other way around? I'm not sure. I've not been a great fan of NZXT products and motherboards, to be honest with you, for the longest time, but now actually dealing with their support side, is their software, their updates are really good. They've had, I think this board now, considering how old the 600 series is, they've had at least 3 BIOS updates in the last month or so. So they're clearly working on things continually, and that is always a good sign. Now I know at the moment there's all these vulnerabilities for Intel and AMD processors which are being found on almost like a weekly basis. So they're having to patch these things as they go. But the fact that they are doing it, there's a lot of motherboard manufacturers out there which produce a motherboard and literally the first BIOS is on it is the one that it dies with. So the longevity thing is awesome. So I would, if a board came along which was at a good enough price, I would probably go with the NZXT version of it. Well, which is why I bought that one, because it was £100 for a Z690, which is brilliant. It is essentially an ASRock board, and the BIOS looks very ASRocky. And it is made by ASRock. They've said that it is kind of made by them, but designed by NZXT. Benny Hill, question, Mike, if I may, what kind of thing of Jay's 2 cents? Question, what do you think of Jay's 2 cents when he shaved down the GPU 4000 something or other and wondered why it melted? I'm not too sure what that is about. I know that he, I saw a thumbnail and he's saying I may have made this worse. I think it was where he was using thermal paste or repasting his GPU to try and get the temps down on his laptop. If that's what you're on about, I'm not too sure. But if it's something else, I'm not entirely sure. Jay does some funny things, he really does. Voice 5 Sir 5, is it true that with AMD 7000 series CPUs you can overclock even in A620 motherboards? If so, what's the point of getting a B or an X? I don't think that's entirely accurate. I don't think you can overclock as such like you would normally. I think it's more of a case you can use XMP and those kinds of things. I don't think you can do multiplier overclocking. I'm not entirely sure. I've not owned one, so I can't say hand on heart that is the case. I might get an A620 board actually just to try it out, see what they're like. There generally isn't a huge kind of gamut between the A620 and like the Z690, X670. The only thing you get generally now with AMD is you get more PCI Express lanes or more features. So I think the default for B650 is, I'm pretty sure it's Wi-Fi standard. I could be wrong there. But it's definitely a BIOS flashback. That is a universal thing, I think, for all AM5 boards. And for the B series specifically, I'm pretty sure 2.5 gigabit Ethernet is like a standard issue thing. But yeah, I'm not too sure. I think A620 as well, if I'm right in thinking, possibly is limited to PCI Express Gen 4 only, not Gen 5. Whereas the B650 has got Gen 5 for primary M.2 and the GPU slot, I think. There is a little bit of flexibility there, but I'm pretty sure... Actually, does it say on there? Yeah. Lightning Gen 5 M.2 on the B650. And I know the graphics card slot is PCI Express Gen 5. And the rest of them are all Gen 4. But you're right in what you're saying. There isn't really a huge difference. It's mostly the quality of the electronics, the breadth of the VRM, so for kind of getting more out of your processor. It's a very, like I said earlier on, it's a very weird time because all of the processors and graphics cards now are kind of designed pretty much out of the box to be at their peak performance. So the days of like manual overclocking to get what you could out of processors is kind of gone, really. The days of like buying a Intel Core 2 Duo T4400 that ran at 2000 megahertz and overclocking it to 4000 megahertz, those days are long gone. Like 100% overclock is never going to happen again, I don't think. I think that was one of my most impressive overclocks, actually. The E4400. And I'm sure that was a 2 gigahertz base clock. And I'm almost 100% sure I managed to get it to 4000 or 4 gigahertz with some serious cooling. Good stuff. Good times. Performance for nothing. David Underhill says NZXT Mobos are mega expensive in Australia. Cases are okay prices, however. Yeah, I'm tempted to get... The only thing which bothers me with NZXT is very much like what bothers me with companies like Lian Li and Thermaltake, Corsair, etc., etc., is where they have their own proprietary connectivity and software. It's good. I can understand why they do it, but having any kind of relatively closed system on your PC is just a bit of a pain in the backside. Like, I really like the Thermaltake stuff, but having to use Thermaltake TT RGB software, which goes from being fantastic to being a pain just by an update because of its CPU resources, it's just really super annoying. Like, if you're going all in on your Thermaltake or your Corsair or your Lian Li or whatever it is, then it makes sense. Again, NZXT as well, you can basically, I think you can buy pretty much everything NZXT, motherboard, case, fans, cooler, RGB strips, all that stuff. So you can really go all in on it. But I kind of like the flexibility. Like MSI Center, it's got its faults, it's not perfect, but the fact that I can get pretty much any 3-pin 5-volt RGB addressable RGB stuff, stick it in the computer, it will either work or it'll be recognized by MSI Center and say, right, this is what it is, you can use this. I kind of like that. I like that flexibility, be able to pick and choose. Again, with these kind of walled gated systems, it's always like, if you go down the Corsair route, you buy a Corsair case, it comes with the Corsair fans, you've got the Corsair hub, so then you're kind of like, right, okay, I'm installing iCUE. Then you don't really want to install MSI Center and all that other stuff, because if you get conflicts and it's just more software, it's just a real pain in the ass. So I kind of like it for its ecosystem thing, but I don't like it for the fact that it excludes things. Like if you went into iCUE and it said, oh, you've got this brand in here as well, or you've got this whatever Razer mouse or Razer keyboard or whatever, and it all worked together, it'd be freaking awesome and people would do it. But the fact that you have to install like multiple pieces of software, get it all synchronized together, and generally it doesn't, it's just a real pain. I kind of like Signal RGB for that reason, or Open RGB and all those other similar kind of softwares which do that same thing to try and tie it all together. Hopefully in Windows 11, in a month or so's time, when the next big update comes out, they're going to have that new RGB feature, which is in theory going to start trying to unify it all. I don't think it is. I don't think they've covered enough manufacturers so far, but potentially it could grow. Who knows? Be nice to think it would.
William Bodie?
William Bodie. Let me scroll down. William Bodie. William Bodie's question there. Mike, can you make all fans in a PC case run by CPU temperature? Yes. In fact, mine do. In MSI Center, the kind of the trigger is the CPU. So if in the case now, I could get the GPU like red hot, and the fans wouldn't really do anything at all. But if the CPU ramps up, then all the fans kick in. There's various ways you can do it. MSI Center will basically, or actually the BIOS will allow you to do it. I think actually most systems will. If you go into the BIOS and it says, I know ASRock and Gigabyte can do this, MSI, ASUS not so sure probably. But yeah, you can go to the BIOS and just tell which thing it's going to monitor. So whether it's going to monitor CPU, GPU, case, whatever. Most of them do run off the CPU. Or another way of doing that is you can actually take all of your fans, connect them to a hub, and connect your hub to the CPU fan header, and then they'll all run at the same speed. But then you really need all of them a little better. You need them all to be the same. Otherwise the readings will be off. Ira Wolfman says the NZXT cases looked good until I saw videos on the amount of damage after delivery. They seem to be very lightweight and flimsy. I've not come across that, but then I've not had very much experience. I think I've only ever seen 2 cases here. I think it was 2, maybe even 1. So I've not got a lot of experience. No, actually 2. George's S340, which was like a legendary case. And the one I got from Dave, which was, I think, was the N5R, I think. Not sure. Stuart Cleary, my 1995 Gateway 2000 still plays YouTube perfectly well. They can keep their rip-off 40 series GPUs.
Captain White's off.
Cheers, Captain White. Skystalker saying to Glenn, I was an early AM4 adopter. I remember the headaches. I think you were exactly right. The AM4 platform was so mature. My memory has faded regarding the issues I had. Yes, it was awful in the beginning, AM4. Good because it was new, but bad because it was like, oh, not very reliable.
Samuel Bush.
Samuel Bush. Question, how do I improve my network speed? I've upgraded my system recently and my speed won't go over 2 megabytes per second. It's super slow. Any advice? Yes, it depends what... Are you on wireless? If you're on wireless, then potentially there's going to be things going to be limiting you. So positioning of your antenna, if you're connected to 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz, as you get further away from the router, then 2.4 gigahertz, although it is the slower speed, will actually provide you with a faster throughput because it's a more reliable signal. Slower, but more reliable. The 2.4 gigahertz radio waves can penetrate through walls and flooring and stuff a lot easier than 5 gigahertz can because it's a broader spectrum. So that is certainly something to look at. If it's on a wired connection, then you've got some bigger problems. With a wired connection, the only thing you can really do, some motherboards will let you go into the BIOS and actually check that the cable pinouts are okay. Otherwise, buy a cheap cable tester from Amazon for about £4, £5 or something. It takes a little 9-volt battery, plug your cable from your PC in both ends, and just make sure that all the leads are crossed over. If you are running a Cat5 cable or Cat6 cable...
Even a wired connection.
Wired?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, if you're on wired, it's possible that it's damaged cabling. So you can actually get Ethernet to work on only 4 wires, but it will reduce you to, I think, 10 megabit, which would explain why you're getting those slow speeds. So it's probably the fact the cable's possibly damaged. If you look into your, go into Windows, in the bottom corner, click on your network, or right click on your network icon and choose network settings. You can go into there and you can find out settings about your Ethernet card. It should be showing in there possibly 100 megabit connection, or maybe 1000 gigabit if you're on a gigabit to a hub. If it's showing 10 megabit, then that is what your problem is. You probably find that one of the wires is damaged in the plugs, so it's only communicating on 10 megabit rather than 100 megabit. So 10 megabit limits about 2 megabytes. 100 is, I think, 20 megabytes, and a gigabit gets you, I'm trying to think now, it's about 100, I think, 120. I don't know. It changes. Yeah, if you're not sure, join the Discord, but you'll probably find it's a wire issue. I'd be very surprised if it's not. Or you've got some sort of bloatware on there that is, as O'Reilly says there, you may have some other software. If you've got Asus Armory Crate, they do some weird stuff with the driver for the actual Ethernet port. But check, that's the best thing to do. Check first of all, look in Windows, see if it's running as 10 megabit, 100 megabit, or 1 gigabit. That will give you some idea. I have a wire, but no, yeah, so yeah, have a look, see what's going on. If it still bothers you or is not working, head over to the Discord and we can look at it in more detail. Yeah, Riley's saying there, Ethernet is 8 pins. You can use it with about 4 pins, but it'll be slow. Most of the Ethernet wires are only the thickness of a head hair. If you have it, thanks for that. Yeah, sometimes it's worth just, if you've got the router nearby, literally just try another cable on a different port and see if you get better speeds. Not always easy to do, but they are. I've got some wire there. Basically, Cat5 wire is flexible copper. So kind of every time you plug a cable in, or if it gets moved around, it's like any metal or copper. If you keep on bending it, eventually it's just going to snap. Normally it snaps somewhere along the cable length, which will reduce your speed.
It's showing 1000 megabyte per second.
Right, if it's showing 1000 megabytes per second.
On the link speed.
So when you're downloading, you're only downloading at 2 megabytes per second, or if you go to somewhere like speedtest.com, does it show you as your upload and download the same slow? Worth doing that. Head over to speedtest.com, I think it is. Let me double check, I'm pretty sure it is. If you type in speed test into Google, there's speed test by Ocala, or Ookla. You can go on there and click on go, and it will do a speed test. I'm actually doing mine now, which is probably not a great idea while I'm running a stream. But we should have enough bandwidth. So download speeds at the moment are about 900 megabytes download because I've got a pretty decent connection. Although we do pay for the privilege. What's the upload going to be? Upload's about 80 because I'm uploading. Yeah, it's flying. That new router we've got actually is working out really well. You happy with it, Kath?
It's better than it was.
It's better. Okay, I'll take that. That'll work for me.
But then it's like it keeps dropping out, doesn't it? So I don't know if it's my phone dropping out or the router thing dropping out or the internet itself breaking.
I've had mine, I think maybe once or twice, where I've walked from here, gone out to the kitchen, gone to the front door, gone upstairs into the bedroom, and I've been watching a video, and then I've just noticed at the bottom says you are reconnected. That's about the most I've had, which I can
I've had to turn it off
live
and on
with.
again a couple of times, but not as much as I was doing. But then our internet's been rubbish recently on it, dropping out, so I'm not sure which it is.
Right, so Simon Bush, yeah, 1000 megabytes, so that is 1 gigabit Ethernet. So as long as the thing is with gigabit Ethernet, and the same with 2.5 gigabit, people ask this all the time. They're like, well, I've got 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, but I'm only getting XYZ download or transfer. The thing is, with any of these faster gigabit Ethernet speeds, you have to make sure that every single link in the chain has the same capability. So if you've got like 2.5 gig from your PC to your switch, and you've got 2.5 gig from your switch to your Virgin Media hub, then there's a chance you're going to get 2.5 gig all the way through. But if you've got 2.5 gig in your PC and then you're plugging into a gigabit switch, you're going to be reducing to gigabit at that point and from then onwards. So some people have got like a 10100 switch, so they go from 2.5 gigabit down to 10 megabit or 100 megabit. So there are those things as well. Anyway, whatever. Run speed tests and let us know what you get.
When I download, the speed is 2 megabytes. I don't know if it's
Where was that?
last comment.
Oh, last comment. When I download, so what is the... Yeah, when you're downloading from where? Like, if you do the speed test, you'll get an upload and a download speed. And be interested. Well, yeah, let us know what speed test says is the upload and download speed. It'll be actually quite telling as well, because if you find that your download speed is a lot less than your upload speed, then there's something clearly going on your PC. Yeah, Ira Wolfman. I keep on saying I'd really love to have like a symmetrical system, so it's like 1 gig up and down, but to be honest with you, it's fine. And we're kind of almost pressured into keep on upgrading our broadband when the internet just seems to get slower and slower because they're getting more and more feature rich. Stuart's asking, is there any way to test the HDMI cable for bandwidth? Not, well, there is, but not with kind of normal, like household items, I don't think. There will be, I think, some modern TVs you can go into the menus and it will tell you what the HDMI cable is capable of, but I think it's relatively hit and miss. Skystalker says, I actually bought a USB hub and a little LCD screen that tells me the capabilities of the USB-C cable. They all have chips in them, that I understand. That's awesome. O'Reilly says, I know when I had Asus Gamer first installed, downloading games to install from Steam cut the download speeds from the Steam servers by at least half. Oof. Ordinary Dude says 1 gig up and down is awesome. I love it. Yeah, I would like it. Ivory Wolfman says most routers will tell you the speeds. Simon Bush, thanks for the advice. So far I've done an online test and I got 14 megabits per second download. But when I try and download Rainbow Six Siege, it's 2 megabytes per second. Are you downloading it from Steam, or where are you downloading it from? And is there other people in the house using the internet? That is going to be... I'm not sure about Rainbow Six Siege. I'm pretty sure you can get that from... Yeah, if you've got the Steam version, the Steam servers, you might be able to go into your Steam settings. There is a section there where you can choose download location. So make sure the download location is the country you're actually in. Or if it is the country you're already in, swap it to another one, a local-ish country, and see if their servers are any better for you. Kaiser Solo says throttling settings in Steam. Yeah, Steam also has throttling. So depending who set it up, then they might have throttled it, so you can't get full download speeds. Simon saying my board port is 2.5 gigabit when my Wi-Fi extender is 1000 megabits or 1 gigabit. So are you actually using a Wi-Fi extender, or are you wired? I'm a little confused there. Might be easier if you can... did you put the link in for Discord? We'll put the link in for our Discord server, so sometimes that kind of thing is a little bit easier to diagnose, or at least to work with in that format. I'm going to grab my cup of tea. It's not very cold, honest. Some people feel physically sick when I drink cold tea. I kind of like it. William Bodie, Monks Unboxing, did the test and show it here. Are you going to look at it? I'm not.
You did.
Oh, what, the one I did? I don't think I can show the one I did.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because if it's the one I did, I can't show it because it's got my IP address on there, and I don't particularly want to show off my IP address. But if you want to put in your results in the chat, let us know what you got. It's all good. Samuel saying Ubisoft, as I have Game Pass and currently I'm the only one up, so the only one... Oh, so you're on Wi-Fi, not... Right, okay. I'm really confused now, because you said earlier you're wired, but then you said you're Wi-Fi. So you're on... If you're on Wi-Fi, then if you... I'm really confused. Have you got... Because if it says you're connected at 1000 megabits, that must be for your Ethernet adapter. So you must have that plugged in as well. So maybe one is fighting with the other if you're using both wired and wireless at the same time, because normally wired will try and overrule wireless. I'm not too sure. That's quite confusing. Right, I think.
Check the Discord out.
Yeah, check out the Discord. The links are in there, so you can you can join our Discord and we can talk about it then. And I think, looking at the time, I can't believe I've rabbited on for so long. It's been 3 hours of me talking absolute nonsense, and you lot have all lapped it up. So well done. Congratulations to making it to the very end. Actually, it's been quite good fun. I've quite enjoyed myself. Hopefully, you guys have as well. It's kind of nice just to chill and just get on with it, do our thing. Have a chat, be nerds, and have fun together in a safe and non-toxic environment. I hate saying that, toxic environment. William, I got DSL 100 up, 100 down, 40 up. Speed test right now shows 93.11 down and 34.84 up. So that's pretty bloody close. Not too bad. Benny Hill says we like the 3 hours. Thank you. Aletta says we don't have lives. No worries. New Year's is always good. Yeah, we'll have to do New Year's as well. David Underhill says 3 hours of nonsense sounds like my total university experience. Awesome stuff. Right, I have got work to do tomorrow. Unfortunately, I have to appear in the shop and do actual things. Skystalker says my IP reads as 192.168.1.101. Feel free to spam it. I won't. I won't. Alright, okay. Samuel, head over to the Discord and we'll see what we can do for you. I might be a while because I've got to pack all this shit away, but you never know. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap things up. That is the 3 hours of allotted time. I could go on for ages actually. I feel alright now. I feel like I've got my second wind, but anyway. So, thank you all very much for joining us tonight. If you haven't already, smash the like button, all that usual kind of YouTube stuff. And thanks, as always, to all of you who contributed on PayPal, Patreon, YouTube membership, and also, obviously, super chats and super thanks during the week. You guys who do that in the week, the super thanks in the videos, those are awesome. Thank you very much. I know a lot of you like to do it, so you see your super thanks or super chats come up in the chat live. But for those of you that do it in the kind of the pre-recorded videos, yeah, it's massively appreciated. And if we've managed to help you in some small way, and we are very, very gracious and grateful of all of your support and your comments and all that kind of usual stuff, which is awesome. And onward and upward to 100k. I want my silver play button. It's very important. Sorry, selfish. I want our. I'm gonna get. Apparently, you can reorder them. So when we get the thing, I'm going to say I broke it. And I'm going to order a couple. I want one in the bathroom, definitely. And I'll buy two. One for me, one for Kath, so we can have one on each desk. I have lost my mind. Anyway, thanks all for watching. Hopefully you've had a good time. I was going to say something important then, but it's gone. Anyway, never mind. It happens when you get old. So, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video or over on the Discord if I've told you to go over there. Get over on Discord, god damn it. It's free. You might like it, you never know. There's some funny people there, including me and Kath.
I'm not very often.
Kath's not on there very often. Unless it gets political and then she jumps in. Just leaves a little time bomb in there and just runs away. On that bombshell, good night, God bless, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Now there's a delay, so I've got to wait.